beans and bees and friends who are also bees. Welcome to this week's Indie Thursday stream. This week we are going to be continuing our playthrough of Higurashi When They Cry, Matsuribayashi, as you can see, and I have a distinct feeling that we're coming up to the end. Because we're coming up to the end, I have no idea how long this stream is going to be, but my plan is to just keep going until we finish, unless it becomes really obvious that we're not going to be finishing this week, like it was last week, where I was like, oh yeah, we're totally at the end, and then it turns out we weren't. So without any further ado, swap over to the game to play. Boy howdy, do I wish that there wouldn't be that, like, pause when I swap from one scene to another. I think it's because OBS hasn't had enough time to realise and like pick up the game that I'm playing, but it's really annoying. Whoops, I may have accidentally hit the wrong button. I did. I just meant to click back into the game and instead I clicked start rather than continue, which is very cool of me. So we've got 4 achievements left. One of them is to finish the story, one of them is the secret ending, one of them is the tips, which we haven't found yet, and the other one is the staff room chat. So I have a distinct feeling we're like coming up on the end, but let us load in. When we left off last week, we had been trying to carry out the plan to hide Rika away from Takano and everyone else and basically fake her death, and we'd been caught out, and in a dramatic chase scene the mountain dogs had grabbed Rika, who basically sacrificed herself to avoid Shion and, oh my god, I've forgotten his name, to being killed. So let us load in. Have we ever been looking for you, Rika? You're such an important person, so you can't just disappear like that, you know? That's against the rules. Meep. Rika, we'll take you back to the clinic. Everyone else is free to go. The assault unit that led Rika away headed back into the basement. Why are you so quiet? There we go. They were about to break the rules too. You aren't going to keep that promise, are you? A promise? What are you talking about? Whoa there. We don't want you to bite your tongue. Hey! As Rika tried to run, Okanoki grabbed her fragile arm. She fought back, but her resistance meant nothing against him. One of the mountain dogs took out a syringe from the case. It shouldn't kill her, but it would probably put her to sleep. Takano, after all, didn't need a chatty Rika. She just needed a live cream carrier. If Rika got that shot, that would mean the end of this world. Before Rika could scream, the other dog covered her mouth. Hurry up and give her the shot. The dog with the syringe drew closer to Rika's arm. She was being grabbed from behind and her mouth was covered. There was no way for her to fight. Elbow guy in the nuts? That's what I've always heard. Kick or elbow in the nuts. Eyes are also good, is the other thing I've heard. If you can sort of, even just poking people in the eyes, if you've ever done it to yourself. Shins, inside of knees, but knees are the best place for most people. I believe, even if I'm asleep, I believe. There's no way for to fight. Believe, even if I'm asleep. Rika kept repeating that in her mind. She believed that someone would wake her up, and that the first thing she'd see when she opened her eyes would be her beloved friends. It happened all of a sudden. The man with the syringe spun twice in the air and dropped to the ground. Nobody, including Okanogi, could understand this sudden phenomenon. It defied the very laws of physics. Rika couldn't understand either. The man who was holding her from behind spoke up. I made it. His voice had such a heavy feeling imbued in it. I regretted it in countless worlds. Whenever I realised it, it was too late. Who are you? The others took a few steps back, away from Rika and the man holding her. There are many units within the Mountain Dogs, so often its members don't remember each other's face. There were just too many units, so nobody really paid attention. Whoops. All the Mountain Dogs were more or less well-built, but this man had an excellent physique. Even Okanoki noticed that he'd never seen anyone like that in one of his units before. Rather, he actually wanted to recruit him, but this is what I've been longing to tell you all this time. Rika, I came to help you. I know it's trying to be dramatic, but it's just not working for me. I also unfortunately spoiled myself for this because I'm an idiot. I was desperately trying to work out how long we had left in this chapter and spoiled this particular bit for myself, but after this I have no idea what's going on. Akasaka. The hands that were holding her left her shoulders. They left ever so gently. Damn you! And as soon as they did, they transformed into a pair of furious fists, which implanted themselves in the faces of the men attacking him from behind. They flew through the air. Akasaka hit those two without even turning around. 5 menacing mountain dogs surrounded Akasaka. However, he didn't even see them. He could only feel the deep emotion of finally being able to do what he'd been longing to. And the 5 of them sensed it. That maybe, just maybe, he didn't even care that they were there. What are you doing just standing there? Get him. I still never got around to working out an Okanogi voice. On Okanogi's signal, the 5 mountain dogs bore down on Akasaka. Rika, stay low. Okay. Rika dropped to the ground, and Akasaka was left standing. Akasaka, who came back to keep a promise he made for the girl 5 years ago. But his promise was worth more than 5 years. Rika knew that. Akasaka probably understood it too. The promise went back 100 years. For 100 years, he'd regretted not being able to save her from the conspiracy. He believed that one day there would be a miracle and he could travel back to this day. That was why he continued to train himself. His strong will and Rika's wish made that miracle happen. That one and only miracle allowed Akasaka to be here in Hinamizawa in June 1983. Angry face. The first one went down in the time it took Okanogi to blink. Luring himself to grapple Akasaka had proven fatal. He wasn't so soft as to let such perfect openings go by. His hand smashed into the back of the man's head. His blow was powerful enough to smash a pillar of ice or start a mountain on piles. As it happened, Akasaka was holding back a little, so his target wasn't too injured. Akasaka goes all out from the very first shot. That's why he only needs one shot. He's unrelenting. I had a hiccup in the middle of reading that. His well-trained fist continued to knock down the mountain dogs, one member for every time Okanogi blinked. One hit per opponent was all Akasaka needed. This was the true essence of karate. Akasaka's colleagues praised and feared his power. His power is like armor-piercing ammunition. Don't go from dark mode to light mode, dude, that hurts my eyes. Weapons were useless against him. No matter how hard his victim tried to protect himself, it meant nothing to Akasaka. But he was too strong for the mountain dogs to even understand that. It was as if he was a giant they had to crane their necks up to see. Akasaka didn't even give them time to think. Someone from the mountain dogs must have called for backup. About a dozen more members had arrived. Don't worry, Rika. As long as I'm here, I won't let them touch you. Me, I'll draw some pictures while I wait then. As Rika stayed low to the ground, she picked up a stick and started to carve into the dirt. I really do love her. That made Okanogi even angrier, but he calmed himself down. Then, the warrior's intuition resting in his blood came to a realization. Numbers didn't matter. Even the full force of the mountain dogs wouldn't be able to defeat this monster. All the combat units were still down in the basement. There was no way they could take him. Okay, I guess I have to take you down, huh? By the way, I remember you now. Your face brings back memories. Boy, you've sure grown, huh? You can't be. Hey, don't recognize me? Sure has been a while, huh? Grown a hell of a lot? Good to see you again. It had been 5 years. This was the man Akasaka fought with when he was investigating the kidnapping of the minister's grandson. Akasaka had still been inexperienced then. I was ordered to go easy on you, so I held back. But I won't hold back today. And that fat guy won't come to help you either. Still, you sure have improved a lot in the past 5 years, huh? I'm happy. I've been hoping for something like this for 5 long years. The rest of you, stay out of this. Okunogi took off all of his equipment and threw it on the ground. He loosened one button, oh my, then positioned himself. Sorry, I got distracted there because I heard the clink of an earring that I thought was falling out, but it was just adjusting. I have a single pierced lobe, which at the moment is a captured wool, which clinks around if I'm not careful, so whenever I hear that clink noise I'm instinctively like, please don't have fallen out. I've lost many an earring that way. Seeing that, Akasaka realised he was somewhat capable and narrowed his eyes in vigilance. Okunogi took that as an insult, that Akasaka only thought he was somewhat capable. His behaviour was telling Okunogi that he viewed him on the same level as the other small fry. Dramatic style change. First moved to take up a stance and avoid getting Rika involved. He hadn't even moved one bit until just then. Okunogi could easily see that he was extremely strong, but at the same time I thought it'd be fairly simple to take down. Karate may be a martial art, but nowadays it was just a sport. The army combat Okunogi trained in was completely different. Obviously Akasaka had studied a lot, but it's all just child's play. All he learned were routine moves and forms. Besides, karate moves are fairly straightforward. Okunogi was confident that he could fight any Pearl man. Okunogi started leaning on his toes and using his meticulous footwork. In contrast, Akasaka still hadn't moved from his stance. He was acting as if Okunogi's footwork was simply a trick, which infuriated Okunogi. He moved fiercely and nimbly in a manner completely different from how Akasaka was moving earlier. Akasaka remained calm, but Okunogi saw it differently. He can't react to my movements, so he's prepared to take damage in order to deal more. Akasaka couldn't defend himself from Okunogi's quick jab, and it connected with his face. It was a quick but light attack. Its purpose was to distract Akasaka and create an opening for Okunogi. He knew that Akasaka would use his arms to guard his face instinctively. His real purpose was to attack his abdomen, which would then be unguarded. Of course, Akasaka didn't have enough time to guard himself. It took more than just good kinetic vision to prevent his attack. Only Okunogi, who had trained for many years, perfected the speed of that technique. Normal people would struggle helplessly while vomiting if they were to experience Okunogi's kick, could even rupture internal organs, so it was pretty amazing that Akasaka was still on his feet. What's the matter, Mr. Karate? Can't you fight back? Too light. What? Akasaka mumbled something, but Okunogi couldn't hear. Actually, he did hear it, but he never imagined he could say such a thing in this situation. So he couldn't hear it. He couldn't comprehend it. Too light. What did you just say? Your attack is only meant to defeat your opponent. That's why there's no weight to it. Huh? What are you talking about? Karate nourishes you spiritually. To attack others, you have to learn to be attacked. When one learns how much pain and grief their own blow deals to others, they finally understand the meaning of striking another and being struck. You aren't even close to that level, and that's why your attack has no weight to it. You're saying I'm still immature? Okunogi attacked Akasaka again, but this time he was different. He blocked Okunogi's fists and legs. Of course, Okunogi was still the only one attacking, but Akasaka had started to become much more aggressive. Now as he attacked, his hands and legs were being injured. He instinctively sensed that he was in trouble. He thought Akasaka was just a police officer, but his movements were far too dangerous. He was merciless. He was dangerous. So Akasaka's training and experience must far surpass Okunogi's. Wait, that dynamic heel kick isn't karate, is it? His heel kick missed Okunogi's head by a millimeter. You do something on the side other than karate, don't you? Abruptly loud music. I hate audio leveling. No, I only do karate. Don't lie. Some of the moves you're doing aren't karate at all. Okunogi was starting to become impatient. The reason he ridiculed martial arts or sports was because they were all hard-headed and only used set moves. That's how you strike in karate. This is how you punch in boxing. This is how you throw in judo. It's easy to learn, and that's why it's easy to win. But Akasaka was different. The only vaguely not even martial arts, but that sort of thing I've done is kickboxing when I was about 14 for a term. Up until the last 2 years of school, my secondary school required that every student had to do some form of PE each term, and in your fourth and fifth years, so my GCSE years, you could choose which ones you wanted to do. We had a different one on offer every term, but I am not a particularly sporty person. The only activity I really enjoy is walking and swimming, and swimming wasn't always available. So I wound up repeating self-defense and kickboxing over and over again because those were the two that involved the least effort. I did once get my neck really badly hurt during self-defense, and I couldn't move my neck for the rest of the day, which meant whenever I was in class, I had to sit at a right degree angle so I could see the board, because I couldn't move my neck was stuck at a 45-degree angle. And I couldn't move it back to zero in order to see the whiteboard when I was in class. And that went on for a day or two, I think. Fun facts from teenage me. But Akasaka was different. He said he only did karate, and he must have spent unthinkable hours training. Yet he was flexible enough not to be confined only by formatted moves. That was understanding at a spiritual level. The spirit of martial arts isn't just forms. One simply learns forms to reach that level. For one who has reached it, there are no forms. What Akasaka had was a philosophical spirit. Disappointed in you. Shit. Dramatic zoom on Akasaka's pecs, as happens. Akasaka stepped away from his original spot for the first time. He moved forward. He filled the space between Okanogi and himself with his inescapable conviction. As he walked closer to Okanogi, his assault radius tried to swallow him whole. To be within that radius meant death. Okanogi walked backwards to avoid being in that radius. That was as the result of his clear-headed judgment, not because he was scared. You don't even know the meaning of attack. I'll teach you just how significant it can be. As Okanogi moved backwards, his back hit the van he came in earlier. He was cornered. Having your back to a wall didn't mean you were at a disadvantage, but the more it was pressed against that wall, the further a disadvantage it became. This is something that's always got to me in horror movies and shit. Is I understand the idea is don't let them corner you, but at the same time I feel like having your back to a wall means nothing can creep up behind you, which I always appreciate. Again, more Teen Mochi stories. When I was younger I used to get really freaked out whenever it still happens. I'm not very good at horror movies, but I would read horror books or watch horror movies and get really freaked out. And then, because I got really nervous that something was going to creep up behind me when I was walking around the house, I would walk scooching my back along the wall and constantly looking around me to see if nothing was going to sneak up on me. Because I'm a big fat coward. I also lived by myself for several years on a first floor apartment, which means less likely to be broken into than a ground floor apartment, but at the same time, still not ideal. Still got very nervous sometimes. More the back was pressed against the wall, the further a disadvantage it became. If Okanogi let Akasaka come any closer, he wouldn't even be able to take a combat stance. Okanogi decided it immediately. The last chance he had was the moment before Akasaka took his next step. His foot left the ground. He was taking his step. Now, go to hell. No tricks, no feints. Okanogi lowered himself and attacked with everything he had. A moment of terror where I think, oh my god, did I forget? The attack was powerful enough to break Akasaka's ribcage and rupture his heart. I'm a professional, Okanogi told himself. Can't be defeated by this amateur. I'm Okanogi of the Mountain Dogs. Good for you. So how much did you get paid, huh? At that moment, Akasaka's eyes opened wide. Not a fan of this, I have to say. All the mountain dogs heard a noise. It wasn't the noise of people fighting. It was the noise of a traffic accident. Okanogi's blow missed by a slight amount, and Akasaka's fist struck inches away from his face. There was a dent in the sliding door of the van. The windows on both sides chattered, and it looked like it had been an accident. Was it even possible for the human fist to do this? Time resumed its flow, and Okanogi knelt down, falling to the ground. Akasaka didn't miss on purpose. He couldn't control his fist because he put everything into one blow. Okanogi should thank Akasaka. If he'd been able to control his attack better, Okanogi's face would have been ended up like the fan. However, although it didn't hit his face, it shattered his spirit. Good job, Akasaka. Clap, 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 clap. Rika applauded, but in this situation, it didn't sound like applause. It almost sounded like Akasaka's fighting spirit was popping like firecrackers. He pulled back his fist, turned around calmly, and spoke. Who's next? I don't want to waste time, so why don't you come at me all at once? They knew. Everyone knew that there was no way to defeat him with their bare hands. They realized they needed weapons and more people. Should be a better equipped unit in the basement. All of a sudden, things began to move quickly. The remaining mountain dogs emerged from the basement. You're not permitted to fire on the surface. I repeat, do not fire on the surface. Phoenix 1, give us permission to collect our and retreat immediately. But the mountain dogs who witnessed Akasaka's battle against Okanogi realized it was time for them to run. They didn't even care about Rika. Who would even think of taking her from Akasaka after seeing what he was capable of doing? When Okanogi regained his awareness, he jumped into a van with the mountain dogs as it drove away. Since he took off his intercom device to fight with Akasaka, he had no idea what had transpired in the basement. After the mountain dogs broke their promise with Rika, they were supposed to round up the remaining club members. But when Akasaka showed up, the dogs had to be divided into a ground force and a basement force, which altered the situation. Kasai had gone on a counterattack, and the other club members somehow climbed up from the well and helped him. Since the mountain dogs weren't allowed to fire on the surface, they realised it would make the situation worse if Kasai fired his guns once he came up after them. Okanogi was unreachable, so Nightingale 1 had ordered the retreat in his place. Who would bear the responsibility for this? It's probably Okanogi's fault for taking off his intercom device to fight against Akasaka, as he basically abandoned his job as a commander. But everything happened in the first place because Akasaka showed up. So maybe it was his triumph rather than Okanogi's blunder. Either way, it was miraculous. But the mountain dogs hadn't run with their tails between their legs. They'd simply retreated for the moment. When they returned, they'd have enough men and enough arms to kill all who stood in their way. And that would happen very soon. There was no time to waste. Rika, I'm glad you're safe. I don't know anything that happens after this. That was a bit I spoiled myself on. Yeah, I am. Thanks to a miracle. No, it wasn't a miracle. We worked together, and one of us, Akasaka, came to help you. That's all. Uh-oh. That's true. Something like this can't be called a miracle. Okay, now it's our turn to attack. They said awkwardly, putting stuff on there. In the basement, the club members were talking about their ground counterattack. Rika was a little disappointed that she couldn't have joined them, but she was happy that Akasaka told her what she'd been waiting to hear. Rika told them about how heroic he'd been, and he got a little embarrassed. Kasai was doing alright, but Shion wasn't doing too well. Of course, it wasn't life-threatening, but she couldn't hear well in her left ear, possibly due to being so close to an explosion. Big mood. I can't hear it on my left ear well either at the moment, so like, Kim. To test her hearing, Mion went around to Shion's left side and whispered some dirty words. She seemed to be able to hear them fairly well. Of course, she might have been hearing through her right ear though. I know in my case, I have to like, turn my right ear towards people. Like, if they're talking to my face, very often I hear the sounds, but I cannot pass them into words. I have to be like, hey, what? Say again? Or I put my right ear towards them. Whoops. Shion decided to lie down on a tatami mattress in the torture room while Irie kept an eye on her. Mion was worried, but Shion told her she was okay and forced her to go ahead with the next operation. Mion complained that she didn't understand her feelings. Shion didn't understand her feelings. Now they'd have to come up with an idea to rescue Tomitake from the clinic. They had Akasaka and Kasai on their side, both of whom were used to battles. And they had Irie, who knew about the secret basement of the clinic. I'm astonished that Irie is doing so well after getting into that car accident earlier, but hey, what do I know? They would have to get moving quickly, but they had to at least have a plan. It was almost 10:30 in the morning. Because of what they'd gone through, they were exhausted, and it felt like it was almost evening. But if they were at school, it would only be the second or third period. They had to pull themselves together. They had to regain their fighting spirit. Irie checked Shion's left ear with a pen light. I'm not a specialist, but your eardrum may have been damaged. Do you have a headache or feel dizzy at all? No, I'll be just fine. Irie wet his handkerchief and wiped Shion's face gently. Are you surprised that the manager of the Hinamizawa fighters was in a gunfight? I mean, yeah, I am. And I heard you were ready to give up your own life. Mibara told me. Jeez, things like that sound cool in the moment, but when you survive, they're pretty embarrassing, huh? Anna. Something happens to you when I live, my sister will never forgive me for that. I don't have my loved one anymore, but Sis does. I don't mean to tease you, but you're talking about Satoshi, aren't you? Well, I don't know. Who knows where he could be? I don't even know if he's alive or dead. He's alive. Hey? This has been my question since literally the first, this has been one of the questions that's never been answered, and I'm so fucking glad to have an answer now, because I speculated, especially with the Irie finding him in the after he bought the toy for Satoko, but I'm so glad to have this answered. Shion's thoughts stopped in their tracks when Irie answered immediately. Satoshi Hojo was alive. He developed terminal symptoms due to excessive stress last year. Many of the other club members had already told Shion about the current situation, so she kind of understood what he meant. I thought I could treat him with the same drug I used on Satoko, but Satoko was one of the very rare and lucky cases. Satoshi's treatment has been very difficult. It's still going on. Satoshi, he's still alive? I'm sorry for not telling you this until now. Satoshi is in the basement of the clinic. Shion and Irie returned from the torture room. Wink. Shion looked very serious, as if she'd gained the determination to fight. Keiichi and the others were just talking about how the enemy found where they were. Do you think there might be some kind of device on Irie's clothes? Not as personal clothes, but something the clinic provides? Do you mean my coat? Excuse me, let me check. Shion checked Irie over like an inspector at an airport. Then she found a little button on the backside of his collar. It was a little round button. There was no reason why it would be on the back of a collar. This is probably it. This is how they found us without following the car. Damn it. But as long as we have this button, it's possible for us to create a diversion, right? A decoy unit with this button can lure the enemy away, and while the clinic is short on staff, we attack and rescue Tomitake. I think that's the best way. Oh, in that case, the decoy unit should bring our foes to my heels. Yeah, that area would be perfect. It's pretty vast, so the enemy will have to bring a lot of men, rendering the clinic practically empty. But we'll have no way of knowing how many will stay behind at the clinic. Tomitake is there, so they'll probably leave an appropriate number of men to guard him. In that case, we should add something they want more than Tomitake to the decoy unit. Are you sure, Rika? Yes. As long as I'm with everyone else in Stoko's Hills, I won't be caught. Only we club members know the hill well enough, so maybe it's a good idea to use us as the decoy unit. Yeah, that works. So the adult unit will attack the clinic, while the decoy unit lures the enemy away. What's the chance of success? As long as Akasaka pretends not to see anything, since I heard you're a policeman. Kasai spoke while loading his shotgun. I'm off duty now, Akasaka replied while checking an automatic pistol. He hadn't used this particular gun before, but he was used to handling guns. He was prepared to fire too. Irie tried to memorize how to remove the safety, but he looked nervous. Have you ever used a machine gun before? No, I've only ever used handguns. Then maybe you should get used to it. Make sure you have a full magazine at all times, and have another gun just in case it gets stuck. Kasai, is that a shotgun? The odd number shots are slug bullets. They can suppress enemies as well as destroy walls. Wow, I know people call you Shotgun Tatsu, but you really are a shotgun expert, huh? Shotguns are very deadly. Therefore, even without firing a shot, my opponents may surrender. By the way, I have some bulletproof vests. You should wear them. Kasai sounded very dependable, but at the same time, he reminded everyone that this operation would be a very dangerous one. I have to say I'm glad that the adult unit is the one going back to the clinic. It wasn't a simple fist fight. Even a veteran soldier can die in a gun battle. There's always a chance of death, regardless of how well trained you are. In fact, Kasai and Akasaka were the only people who could be depended upon. Guess I talked Irie out of carrying a gun because it might be dangerous for him to have one. Someone could get injured by friendly fire. Exactly. Mion suggested that maybe there should be more people on the team, but both Kasai and Akasaka refused because those who couldn't even handle guns at all might end up as dead weight. Well, then I have to go, huh? Without firepower. I'll bring my Ingram to support you. But are you okay, Shion? How's your ear? Oh, it's all better now. I'm back to normal. Sorry to make you worry. God, I wish that were me. Shion, what did I just say? Eh? Of course I heard it. Mion had tricked her. She didn't say anything. Shion still couldn't hear out her left ear. Shion, it's too dangerous. To be honest with you, you shouldn't even be in the decoy unit. You should just hide somewhere. Sis, listen. I now have a reason why I have to go to the clinic. But if I mention it, Satoko is going to want to come too. But she just can't. There'll be an indoor fight. The enemy will fire at us. Do you mean... Mion sensed it. She sensed the reason why Shion had to go to the clinic. That was why she didn't say anything more. If she was in Shion's position, she'd go even if neither of her ears could hear. I was about to say gay, and then as we know, Mion is bisexual, bigender queen, so... Oh my god, I took a drink and then swallowed and like half went up my nose. What is wrong with me? I was just thinking about my blocked ear and how last time it was blocked, it was for like 6 weeks. And the only thing that fixed it, genuinely, was driving up and down lots of hills in San Francisco. The flight to California didn't fix it. But I guess driving up and down those hills did. Or maybe it was like eating better and whatever, cleared up whatever it was. But like, as we were driving back to the airport, and I come back up to Washington, my ear suddenly popped. And I've not been able to pop it this time around, and it's really annoying, and I'm like, oh, I have to go find some hills to climb up and down. It's too dangerous, Shion. Please, think it over. Satoko, Shion will join the rescue unit. Satoko, the decoy unit is counting on you. Concentrate on your job. Shion. You know, right, Reina? You know I'm not planning to die. Yeah, I do. Determined girls can never die. That's right. Even if they kill me, I won't die. Shion and Reina gave each other a high five. Love them. Then it's decided. Let's get moving. Shion, I'll take the button. Here you are. Good luck, Rika. You too, Shion. You believe strongly in a miracle, and now it's going to happen. This is the chance that God has given you. I think there were days I didn't believe. I think someone even admonished me for that. It's difficult to keep believing, isn't it? But you believed. You regretted not believing, so you believed. So please cherish this day. Your strong will brought about today, and you'll no longer have to suffer what you've been suffering up until now. Hey, are you my sis new friend? I don't know your name, but thank you. Yeah, I think it'll go well. Of course it'll go well. Oyashiro-sama guarantees it. God, I love Hanyu so much. Whoops. Wanted to do a save there. The mountain dogs had retreated and reorganized their units. They were now ready to attack again. Takano was furious at them for not being able to bring Rika back to the clinic, even though they had her in her hands. She gave an order to capture her with all the mountain dogs' forces put together. The vehicles were at the clinic, and they were all standing by for the order to attack. Takano wasn't the only one who was furious. Okanogi was as angry as her. That rookie policeman from 5 years ago had grown. He even made Okanogi yield. He couldn't accept that he was defeated, so he was bent on revenge. The reason why the order to attack was held off was because the signal from the transmission device on Irie was momentarily interrupted. They interpreted it to mean the Irie had gone even further down to the basement. The mountain dogs assumed the club members would go further underground and try to escape by using some kind of secret passageway. That passageway couldn't be that long. They'd have to come up to the surface eventually. The mountain dogs were planning to catch them as soon as they surfaced. The villagers were too busy with finishing set up for the festival, so they had no idea what was going on. By this time, the mountain dogs had shut down the telephone network. They were afraid the club members would call the police. The only way into the town was being watched by the blockade unit, so the club members couldn't escape that way. Lara and her friends had to come up to the surface. They couldn't be thinking of staying underground until things settled down. The lifeline, Tomitake, was in captivity. They couldn't be stupid enough to think of attacking the clinic to rescue him. More than likely, they'd try to escape from the village on foot. They'd probably call the police to help them. The patrol unit had several cars driving around the village. The Rise peeled for a signal of the transmitter or those on the run. It was time to wait patiently. The battle had returned to the starting point, and the balance of power was even again. Scheduled report from Skylark 2, all clear. They can't stay quiet for that long. We have to be patient. They will turn up. And by the way, where's the princess? I believe she's interrogating First Lieutenant Tomitake. She's trying to talk him into joining our side. At this point, that may be the only way to settle matters peacefully. Good thing we captured him alive. With the princess gone and no phone calls from Tokyo, I can finally enjoy this cool, air-conditioned breeze. Don't say that for too long. Commander, there's a radio call from Tokyo. It's from Nomura, and it's for you, not the Major. Good grief. If the phone's no good, they'll use the radio, huh? Well, I wonder what the Queen in Tokyo wants from me now. Okanogi and the Mountain Dogs here. Over. Tomitake was being held in a small meeting room. He was shoved under a desk. He was restrained so tightly that he couldn't even turn around. Wink. Takano was sitting in a chair next to the table, staring at a whiteboard. It outlined the research plan that was to be shut down. But she wasn't really reading it. She was just staring. Neither of them said a thing. Silence filled the meeting room. It's almost 11 a.m. What a long day. I was woken up so early and it's not even noon yet. Tomitake didn't reply. Chiro, do you think you can help me? I don't need the Mountain Dogs. I only want you. The Mountain Dogs can't comfort me. I finally realised that your insensitivity is the only thing that can. You knew that, right? That was why you acted that way, right? You thought there was no use in trying to sympathise, and you tried to comfort me. That's what you thought, right? You only pretended to be insensitive, to help me enjoy myself, didn't you? I'm not speaking to you as Major Takano. I'm speaking to you as Mio Takano. You still want to talk to me? A hostage may only give his name, rank, and identification number. Takano hung her head. I don't have the key to those handcuffs. Sorry. It's fine. I didn't ask you to remove them. Would you like a cup of coffee? No thanks. I don't want you to have to help me go to the bathroom in this position. It was hardly a conversation, but Takano was happy that Tomitake had finally replied. However, that wouldn't solve any of their problems. You must kill me, I'm alright with that. I made my peace when I was caught. Yeah, I was planning to kill you tonight. I'm glad you're prepared for that. Good, then my resolve won't go to waste. Don't you want to live? If you promise to join me, you won't have to die. My superiors say there's no point in keeping you alive, but I'll work something out. Who are your superiors? I don't know. The person who contacts me calls herself Nomura, but I'm sure that's not her real name. I really don't know. But you must have talked to her before you decided to do this, right? I only talked to her a few times. When I think back, she probably just wanted to use me. But at the time, I thought she was the only person who could understand me. I understand. I knew there was a time when you needed someone to help you. I wish I could have been there for you. I love getting an email addressed to me that says, Dear One, welcome to join a Yale recommended wellness workshop. I think the fuck not. Oh, Christ. It's like a wellness workshop that like teaches my body to not break down at random and to have blood flow through it at a sensible time, so that when I lose track of time, have my legs crossed for ages and then abruptly lose feeling in my knees. I wish I could have been there for you. Yeah, if you were there, that would have been so nice. Nobody has died yet, but I'm going to kill them. You have your masterminds, but there are other masterminds in Tokyo who oppose them. Most of them want to hush up this issue. You may think it's too late to do anything about it, but you're wrong. There's still something you can do. You can make this whole thing disappear. And my grandfather's research on the syndrome will disappear too, won't it? Takano, what do you want to happen? Takano closed her eyes for a bit while she came up with an answer. Her grandfather's research had been insulted. She wanted those with higher positions of authority to take it seriously. Nomura could make that happen. When the final operation was enacted, the higher-ups of the country would have to read the article, and they'd have to believe what's in it. They'd authorize the execution of the emergency manual. And yes, that would create an irreversible disaster. But at the same time, it would prove that her grandfather's article had merit. You'd be satisfied with that? Sure, I'll be satisfied. That's the purpose of my life. I asked you before. You're going to disappear after this operation, aren't you? Mio Takano's purpose will be fulfilled and she'll vanish from the face of the earth. You'll return to being Miyoko Tanashi. That's your real name, isn't it? How long had it been since she heard that name? Takano closed her eyes slightly. Yeah, that's right. Soon enough, I'll return to being Miyoko Tanashi. Miyoko Tanashi lost her parents and was sent to an orphanage as a little girl. She died after being tortured. That's what you said, right? Yes, I did. I'll have to go back inside of that metal fence. Have you experienced something like that, Jiro? Takano told Tamatake about our horrible experiences, which were simply unimaginable for normal people. It was like one of the most gut-wrenching parts of this particular game. Matsuribayashi has been, like, reading about Takano's past. I'm going to return to that place. And this time, grandfather won't come to help me. So I will die. If I was dead, I wouldn't exist here. If I wasn't here, then there wouldn't be an Irie Institute. I wouldn't be stuck living out such a bizarre fate. You're planning to die, aren't you? I'm supposed to be rewarded after the operation, but I don't believe that. I might suddenly be killed one day. Don't you have someone you can trust? My clients are just clients. They're not my allies, but the mountain dogs are. I paid them more than enough. But you can't truly trust them, can you? They are my allies. They caught you, and they're trying to catch Rika and her friends as we speak. They're helping me. But that's not the kind of ally you need right now. You're right. They aren't the kind of ally I need right now. She paused. She paused because Tomitake had just said exactly what she'd been thinking. Since the day he disappeared, she had been feeling restless. So I was putting my heating back on because I'm cold. Takano had to admit that she needed Tomitake. Jiro, I paid the mountain dogs a few 100 million yen to be on my side. I have a little more than 100 million yen left. How much do I need to pay you? You should think about how much it really costs to get what you truly want. It's rather a pretentious thing to say in this situation. You want me to say it's something I can't buy with money, right? Why don't you give up? You may be able to tame the mountain dogs with your money, but that won't work with me. But I want you on my side. If you want, I'll give you everything, not just money. You can do whatever you want. Isn't that enough? Tomitake didn't reply. It was an affirmation by silence, but I signalled to Takano that he'd already told her everything he'd meant to say, and the most saddening form of silence for her. I'll make you breakfast every morning. I'll show up before you when we meet. I'll never make you wait just to test you. Isn't that enough, Jiro? He didn't say a word. He couldn't see her face under the desk, but he could sense it. This wasn't the time to say anything to her. Remaining silent was the only thing he could do. Suddenly, the phone rang. She sniffled once and picked it up. This is Takano. I see. Understood. I'll be right there. Takano stood up as she put down the phone. The mountain dogs found Rika. We found Irie's signal too. They must already know the roads are closed and are trying to escape through the mountains on foot. Won't be easy to hunt them there, but we're in an advantage since there's nobody else around. See you, Jiro. I think this will be our final conversation. I wish I could have heard you say something at the end of it all. And still, Tomitake stayed silent. Takano ran out of the room. She didn't look like she was hurrying back to work. Does a single cry at that image. It appears they came out above ground from the mountains. They might have tried to get some help from the villagers, but a patrol vehicle found Rika and some of her friends and started tailing them. For a time, Rika and the transmitter were operating separately, but they rejoined at the mountains on the map. You're saying they split up, then met back up? They must have planned their escape route, I guess. I'm sure they're confident that they know their way around the mountains well enough. If there are too many trees or if the bushes are too high, our weapons won't work as well as they should. That's what the karate guy would think, at least. Okanoki was determined to catch them this time. He kept saying how he was simply caught off guard before. Ah, fragile masculinity. They can't escape this time. We must catch them before they get to Okonomiya. Yes, I know. Since they know the mountains better than we do, we'll have to get serious. All our units will besiege and overrun them. All units, did you hear that? Think of it like a soccer game. Our opponents are going to try and score a goal. That goal is Okonomiya. Don't let them get there. Karate Guy's mine, though. We'll absolutely bring him down. Phoenix 2 here, roger that. Nightingale here, roger that. Skylark here, roger that. Heron here, roger that. All units move out. If we fail, it's game over. Quite so. We cannot fail. I'll take command of the corps from here. Do you think it'll be alright to leave Tomitake behind? Sure. We're leaving 8 armed security guards behind. Even if the enemy came at them double that number, they'll be fine. Karate Guy will be more of a problem. We simply can't underestimate him. The security unit guarded the basement of the Irie Institute, which was the heart of the organisation. Therefore, they were armed more heavily than anyone else in the Mountain Dogs. Okanoki's confidence in the security unit and his newfound obsession with defeating Akasaka made the diversionary plan a success. But at the same time, that meant the decoy club members would have to deal with the full force of the Mountain Dogs. That's right, I trusted Toko. The dogs' white vans ran through the village. While they couldn't fire shots outside, all the members were carrying stun guns that fired electric needles. While poor on range, they could subdue a target instantly. With a flip of the switch, they could change between merely stunning or killing their target. The perfect weapon for people like the Mountain Dogs. Also, Shion has one of those, like a supercharged stun gun. The van separated into groups and headed for the mountains. They were planning to surround their enemies and smoke them out. Commander, all units are standing by in position. Very well. Major, please give the order. This is Takano. Make sure you capture Rika alive. I don't care if you kill the rest. Don't let them escape. Finish it right there. Nightingale, Skylark, Heron, start hunting. Phoenix will be the goalkeeper and will be the reserve. Be ready for anything. This is Phoenix 7, roger that. Let's begin. The Mountain Dogs started marching, spreading out in a line with a few meters between them. The mountainside was a savage land where not even the villagers would dare to tread. There were some trails, but no paved roads for humans. It required an enormous amount of diligence and patience to hunt on a mountain like this. All the dogs were nervous. They were told that most of their enemies were children, but there were a few well-trained adults with them as well. In addition, they were supposedly armed quite heavily, and they knew the layout of the terrain quite well. It was obviously going to be a tough battle. Okanoki, how many people do you usually need to search a mountain? It's hard to say, but I'm sure the more people we have, the better position we'll be in. But all the Mountain Dogs put together won't even be close enough. But our enemies are just a small group of people. Don't you think we're at an advantage? Well, you know what people always say. It takes thrice the forces to break a defence. We have twice more than that on our side. Well, that theory works if we're talking about thousands of soldiers. It doesn't work in smaller scale battles. US armed forces proved that in the Vietnam War. Then in this case, how great of a force do you think you need to search this mountain, Okanoki? Whatever works, I guess. I don't know what you mean by that. What would be an appropriate military force? Considering what happened this morning, we have to conclude that their commander is extremely brilliant. They also have at least 2 weapons experts and at least 1 close combat expert. I see that, but the rest are all kids, aren't they? That's what I think too, but we're in their territory. One kid who knows an area well can be equal to a finely trained patrol unit. More troublesome than you think, Major. Then tell me about how great of a force we'll need to actually suppress them. We'll need 1 division. Let me explain what I mean by that. 3 or 4 Mountain Dogs make a battalion, and 3 or 4 battalions make a regiment. And finally, 3 or 4 regiments make a division. You're saying we need 30 times as many people? Of course, that alone isn't enough. We need to get in touch with an artillery base and request an advanced bombardment. If we could get help from the air, I'd want a Phantom to drop napalm bombs. Gotta be kidding me. We don't have that much force at our disposal. What do you think would happen if we tried to chase them down with our current manpower? Well, it won't be easy, that's for sure. Okanoki laughed boldly. He said it wouldn't be easy, but he seemed to be implying that he was the only one capable of doing it. Although this is their territory, they just got there a little while ago. They don't have a base, and they didn't have time to set up traps. I don't think they've even had enough time to use their knowledge of the mountain to their advantage. As Takano listened to Okanoki's explanation, she felt a little anxious. When she pretended to be friendly with Toko a long time ago, she used to tell Takano all about the mountain. She remembered how Toko told her about all kinds of traps she'd set up, but she couldn't recall. which mountain she was talking about. Skylark to base, we've located some of the targets. We can't see our, we're still searching. Can use them as hostages. Capture them even if our isn't there. Nightingale, did you hear that? Gather up the nearby units and block their escape route. Roger, we'll back you up. Well, of course. They'd want to cut off our escape route, wouldn't they? Some fallen trees were leaning again amongst... words. My god. Some smaller trees were leaning against a much larger pine tree, forming a natural scaffold. A small hut made out of plywood had been built on top of them. It was one of Satoko's many secret bases. It was in a perfect spot, since Mion could see the foot of the mountain well. Wow, this went just as Mion expected. Well then, we'll see what they got, huh? Can we win? Can we? What are you talking about? Our enemy's commander is worthless. They need at least one division, but they're trying to attack us with just a single company. What are you thinking? We'll see just how many of them will be able to go back down the mountain in one piece today. Damn it! It's a Skylark 4, we've been attacked. Shit, don't let them get away. They let loose tons of logs. Skylark 6 sprained his ankle, unable to pursue. We'll go on without him. Don't let them escape. Keep chasing them until the end. Don't even give them a chance to rest. There's a Skylark 11, we've encountered a trap. Skylark 12 and 13 probably have concussion. We would have been dead if we weren't lucky. This is Skylark 16, a trap got me. I'm tangled in steel wires, unable to escape. Can't cut them with my knife. Somebody bring a wire cutter. Chaotic radio transmissions came in, one after another. Obviously, Okanoki had been wrong about the mountain dogs being in an advantageous position. Nightingale 10 to base. Those bastards disguised a pit trap with a well. 2 members fell in, unable to rescue them. We need help. Ah! What's the matter, Nightingale 10? Come in, Nightingale 10. This is Nightingale 10. I've been hit. Was pushed from behind. Nightingales 9 through 11 are in the well now. We're unharmed, but I'm unable to escape. Shit. Base to Nightingale, your backup has been attacked. The enemy can see your movements. Watch out. This is Nightingale 1. I have a question. How can they see our movements? There's no UAV in the air or anything. Skylark 1 to base. We failed in our pursuit. We lost them. This is impossible. The mountainside is full of traps. Already had a lot of injured men and only covered a short distance. Heron 1 to HQ. We found Rika and some of her friends. We're going after them. We need assistance immediately. Split up, huh? Plan is to confuse and entangle us with traps. Heron 1, be careful. They're luring you into a trapped area. They're splitting up to divert us and are planning an ambush. This is an extremely advanced tactic. There have already been many injuries in the other units due to those traps and ambushes. Be careful. Be prepared for anything, Heron 1. Heron 1? Heron 2 to base. Heron 1 is trapped. Come on, someone cut the rope. The rest of you, keep going. Don't let our escape. Nightingale 1 to base. Nightingale 7 and his team have gone silent. It's very possible that they've been attacked. Allow us to send assistance. This is Heron 5. 3 of our unit members have been knocked out by falling drums. The hell is this? There are more of those ahead of us? Good Tom Scott video about that. This is Skylark 13. I was down... there's one of them now. I'll chase them down. Damn it, I'm going to get you. Stop, Skylark 13. You can't take them down by yourself. Oh, whoa. Come out wherever you are. Come on, this way. Damn kid. Wait right there. Skylark 13 chased Satoko with an enraged snarl on his face, but Satoko ran through the woods effortlessly. Okay, I only got this artwork. Small branches scratched his body all over, but he continued to chase Satoko. Satoko ran like the wind. To her, she was simply running in her own backyard. Who'd get injured in a place like that? As Skylark 13 ran after her, he passed many mountain dogs who couldn't even move because of Satoko's traps. The more of his trapped fellows he saw, he wasn't sure if the girl he was after really was a girl. She was just something that looked like one. He reached an area where logs were stacked up in piles. It seemed like the trees in the area were being chopped down. It was a rather strange scene. On his way there, Skylark 13 saw a member from a different unit hanging upside down from a tree, and feet sticking out from a pitfall. There was a member whose foot was tied to the root of a tree with a device that looked like a pair of handcuffs. He reached this area after seeing all of them. He suddenly started sweating all over his body. For Skylark 13 realised he had been lured into a trap. He'd been caught in a snare. She'd tricked him. The girl was standing in the middle of an open area, calmly balancing on a stump. She was simply looking at him. Shit, he thought. She's trying to lure me in. This is Skylark 13. Chase one of them to an open field. I'll catch her. I will get her. This is Nightingale 7. I'm the one hanging behind you. That isn't a girl. It's a demon. If you chase her, you'll end up in hell. Base to Skylark 13. That's enough. Wait for assistance. Some nearby members are on their way. Oh, what's the matter, huh? If you want to catch me, you'll need to step forward about 10 metres. It was only 10 metres. If he walked about 10 metres, he could catch that bratty little girl. How many steps did he have to take to walk 10 metres? If he took 10 steps to walk 10 metres, there'd be 10 more chances of stepping on a trap. But it was only 10 steps. He can catch her after taking just 10 steps. Well, if you really want to catch me, then why not take your first step? Come on. Who the hell's... Oh, goodness. Shit. How was he going to take his first step? The area with weeds looked suspicious, but the bare ground looked suspicious too. What if he jumped onto a tree stump? No, that was what she wanted him to do. Cold sweat was dripping off his body. He only needed to take 10 steps, so why was he so nervous about taking the first one? Skylark 13, from what I can see, the tree stumps look okay. You can jump on them. Don't, Skylark 13. This is Nightingale 8, the one tied to the tree root. Tree stumps must be traps. There are too many stumps there and it's just too suspicious. Can you hear me, Skylark 13? Don't go into any bushes, it's dangerous. Don't step on the weeds. Open ground is dangerous too. Shit, then where should I step? Do you want me to fly? What on earth are you doing? I'm growing bored waiting for you. Oh. This is Nightingale 9, the one who's tied up. My head is being patted by one of the targets. She says it's a trap field. Eh? Supposedly, that girl's magnum opus is set up there. Did appreciate that background Rika noise. You should be extra careful. Gotta be kidding me. Did he say magnum opus? What does he mean by magnum opus? Then what's this about all the earth traps? Weren't they her magnum opus? We mountain dogs are professionals. We're paid to engage in battle. Yet this little girl is playing us like fools. Can we not beat her? Can't we beat that brat? This must be a bluff. How is it possible for a trap to exist that's worse than what I've seen so far? It's a bluff. It must be a bluff. Now I'm definitely going to get her. Should I start with my right foot or my left? The girl suddenly lifted a hand and thrust it at me. She tried to tell me to stop. 5 steps. What? If you can take 5 steps without stepping on a trap, you win. I see. You're confident, aren't you? If I take 5 steps safely, what are you going to do? Let's see. I'll admit my loss and surrender. How about that? My brain is as sharp as ever today. I'll get you before you take your 5th step. Stupid fucking kid. Calm down, Skylark 13. Don't let her provoke you. She's a demon. Don't let her appearance fool you. She can read your mind. We can't defeat her. Base to Skylark 13. Don't go any further. That's enough. Nightingale is almost there. Just stay in position. But that would mean I'd lose. 5 steps? 5 steps, you say? Damn it, I'm in. 5 steps, right? Just 5 steps, right? How many times do you need to repeat it? Man should only say things once unless he's whispering words of love. Damn you, kid. Skylark 13. She's going to read your mind. Calm down. That's right. I'm Skylark 13. I'm cool-headed, just like Golga. So when I need to keep a level head and think? Right. She's already onto my thoughts. She can see how I'll think if I have to take 5 steps towards her. Whatever do you mean by that? This is what it means. I won't go forward. I'll take 5 steps backwards. I did it. I was certain it was a trick. If I take 5 steps, I win. She didn't say I have to move forward. I can go backwards too. And that's why you're done with those 5 steps. Skylark 13 down. Fool, you let him mess with him. Sudoku's remarkable performance wasn't just her own effort alone. Mion had mastered the geography and the enemy's formations while instructing Satoko. Satoko marked all of her traps on the map. When that map and Mion's ability to command combined, the club was simply unbeatable. Rika and Hanyu, who knew about the mountain almost as well as Satoko, relayed orders from Mion to Keiichi or Reina. They then prepared for the ambush. The traps didn't always activate when they were stepped on. Sometimes Keiichi and the others were setting them off at the right moment. Keiichi and Reina continued to fight everywhere according to Mion's orders. Sometimes they'd hide and sometimes they'd attack. One by one, they eliminated their enemies. Satoko's traps had been taking down most of the enemies, but Keiichi's surprise attacks with his bat had worked out successfully too. Nice. Not even the well-trained mountain dogs could respond to attacks after being stunned by these traps. Humans need a little time to react. According to the research done by the USAF, the average reaction time is 15 seconds. In other words, any soldier is powerless during the first 15 seconds following a surprise attack. Shortening those 15 seconds is one goal of their training, but no matter how much they train, it will never become zero. The radio communications had actually made things much worse for them. The more they heard about damage done to the other units, the more worried they got. That slowed them down and made them think less strategically. At that point, as far as Mion was concerned, the mountain dogs were no longer a force to be reckoned with. Mion, Keiichi was successful. He bundled them all up nicely together, Nipa. Oh, Satoko did it too. She finished off all of them. Got it. Looks like we got 5 more points with this one, huh? Okay, my lovelies, what are you going to do now? About 30% of your southern army has dropped out. At least 1 or 2 men have to respond to calls from injured soldiers. And what that means is that they hardly have anyone left. Any decent commander would order a retreat around now. This is Skylark 1. We have too many injured men in our unit. We don't have anyone to continue the pursuit. We have no other choice but to give up. Skylark 2, we might have been badly damaged, but we're definitely narrowing the enemy's range of action. You may not withdraw. Maintain the front with what you've got. Shit. Skylark 1 to all units. Commander is basically telling us to die. Check your supplies once more and we'll resume the march. Takano was so mad that she won't allow it. The morale of the unit commander is down because the request to withdraw was denied and they have to resume the march. Here's our chance. Rika, meet up with Reina and lure them into Section C. The traps there are something else. Hanyu, tell Keiichi to move on to Section X. What a fun game. Ow, Mion's in perfect form. If she was born in a different era, her name would have been in the history books. If you ask me, Nelson and Toko are both mediocre. It's like I can see this mountain inside and out. Mion was the type to display exponential ability. When she's down, she's at rock bottom, but when she's in perfect form, it's terrifying. That was the blood of the head of one of the 3 families of Hinamizawa. If Mion had been around for historical battles, she would have changed history. If she were to join Napoleon, Siberia would be French territory. Even with all that, the battle in the mountains was simply a diversion. Just as Mion had expected, everything had collapsed into chaos. If the mountain dogs could think calmly, they would have realised that they hadn't seen any adults. But they didn't notice, confused as they were by all the attacks they were suffering. Of course, that too was part of Mion's plan. The scale of the diversion would hide the fact that there was a rescue unit going to get Tomitake. Therefore, the more chaotic the battle grew on the mountain, the better it was for the rescue unit. That was why she chose such an ostentatious method of fighting. But at the same time, that was exactly the kind of fight that she preferred. She didn't intend to just let it be a diversion. She was planning to destroy the dogs' main force on these mountains. Most frightening of all was our home advantage. It wasn't exaggerating to say the theory that defenders have thrice the advantage over assailants is heavily due to the advantage of location. In that case, how was the rescue unit doing? Were they at a disadvantage because they were on the offense? The 4 rescue unit members, led by Irie, were hiding in a bush next to the clinic. I'm really intrigued to see how this ends. Let's go. The security camera on this side of the clinic is broken, so it's safe. You want to attack from this side? You sure? Our enemy is completely dependent on the security system, so it should be alright. Okay, let's go then. Should we head along the wall to the back of the director's office? Yes, I didn't close the window when I left, so it should still be open. When you're going through the window, there's a back door and a security camera, as well as the security room for the first floor. There should be 2 guards in there. The entrance to the basement is being observed by a security camera, so they'll find us right away. Okay, so we have to take these 2 guards down on the first floor, right? It's a basic rule to a secure an escape route. We'll go in through the office and enter the security room on the first floor. I don't know if Japan does first, second, third, or ground first, second, so intriguing. They moved forward, walking against the wall so they'd remained in the blind spot of the security cameras. They soon reached the window of the director's office. If any village kids saw them, they'd assume they were playing around, pretending to be spies. Irie was glad that the clinic was closed on Sundays. Irie peeked into the room. It was exactly as how he left it. The window was open too. The 4 of them snuck into the room through that window. Akasaka put his ear against the door to check into the hallway. Then he signalled the others to let them know there was nobody on the other side. I'm going to shuffle around my voices because I cannot face doing 3 different deep voices. I've got Irie and Kasai and Akasaka and Shion. Since the clinic was closed, the mountain dogs were the only people around. It being Sunday really was fortunate. Hiccups. I always get fizzy water and then I drink it in stream and then I'm like, oh my god, why am I hiccuping from drinking and then immediately talking? It was quiet inside the clinic. The chorus of the cicadas was the only thing that could be heard. There was a clock on the director's desk. It was almost 11:30. Shion was surprised to find herself getting hungry, given all that was going on. Kasai and Akasaka checked over their weapons. Irie brought out a book of blueprints from a locked bookcase. The title said, Construction Plan for the Area Clinic. This is the director's office. This is the security room for the first floor. It's right next to the office. These red marks are the security cameras. Security room on the first floor shouldn't be a problem at all. Basement will be a lot more difficult. This is the underground research section, and this is the entrance to it here. It appears there's a stairwell to the second floor on the blueprint we gave to the regular workers, but there's actually an entrance to the basement hidden there, and this is the staircase to the basement. It's quite the basement. It's actually bigger than the section above ground. Proves the basement contains the real identity of this clinic. And this is the door that requires your security access card to open, huh? Is it possible for them to revoke your access card? Or is there a way to break through the door in case we can't use it? It's a strong door. When destroying all the evidence, we're supposed to shut the door and pump water into the place. So it's an airproof door, huh? If it can endure that much water pressure, it must be strong. So there must be no way in other than by using the access card. It's possible to block individual cards, but the access cards that Takano and I have are the special ones for commissioned officers. These special cards require an 8-digit password set by the owner, so in practice, they can't block my card. In other words, they don't expect commissioned officers to use them with ill intent, right? But if that doesn't work, we'll have the guards in the security room on the first floor open it. Their cards should work fine. I'd help they'll let us use their cards, though. If they don't want to help, all we need is a card and a finger, right? I'd rather not do that. Let's just hope my card works. Where's the security room for the basement? It's located right next to the door. That room has air conditioning and a TV, so it's where all the guards end up gathering. After we take down 2 guards on the first floor, there should be 6 left. 6, huh? Then we'll have to get them all at once. If we don't, they'll set off an alarm. Unless we can get the wires for it? I'm not sure where, but they must have both the reserve power and reserve wiring. Then that's a no-go. It'd be more realistic to take out everyone in the security room. Are they armed? The guards on the first floor aren't armed, but I've heard they keep guns in the security room just in case. All the security guards in the basement have guns, though. I think they have more powerful guns in their security room too. Since those guns are for indoor use, I bet they use machine guns of a lower caliber. They won't be accurate when used at long range, but they're extremely powerful and dangerous when used in close quarters. They had an MP5 earlier. Won't be good for us if they have more of those. But if we can take them out, the basement is ours. Coach, where's Satoshi? I'd rather not move him, but we can't leave him in the enemy's hands either. Let's move him somewhere safe. I need to be with him too. Which room is he in? He's in a confinement room down there. He's been staying there since last year. Satoshi. The look in Shion's eyes made clear her determination. I'm about to sneeze, so apologies if I do. The security guards who chased after Irie were in the security room on the first floor. They'd resumed their game of poker. They knew that the mountain dogs were combing the mountains, and they were well aware that the Institute continued to be in danger, but their job was to stay in that room. And besides, they were working on their poker game. Of course, they weren't really concentrating on the game itself. They were still both chatting about the recent car chase, and both seemed proud about what they'd done. They were ordered to shoot at the tyres, but they wished they'd been ordered to shoot at Irie himself. They definitely would have caught him then. They talked and laughed like that. When people stopped being on edge, that left them all the more vulnerable. This was a perfect example. That was why it only took 2 seconds to suppress them. I do really appreciate Shion's we only need a card and a finger, right? Because you know Shion would be down for that. Put your hands on your heads. The security guards were professionals. They immediately realised the guns Kasai, Akasaka, and Shion were holding weren't toys. They'd already heard there was a gunfight in the basement of the Sonosaki residence. The security guards knew they weren't dealing with amateurs. They also knew they wouldn't hesitate to fire. That was why they surrendered so quickly. They had handcuffs on them already, so it was easy for Kasai and the others to restrain them. The security guards had never thought they'd be wearing the cuffs themselves. They'd especially never dreamed of being locked up in a toilet. The hands were cuffed to the pipes behind them as they sat on the toilet seats. The mouths were stuffed with hand towels and covered in duct tape. Shion, clearly amused, remarked on how she always wanted to do this to someone. Kasai couldn't help but laugh. So far, so good. The real challenge is the basement. They'll see us on the security camera. Is the camera black and white? And is the screen divided into 4 sections? I think so. It's one of those typical screens for a security camera. Means its resolution isn't that great, huh? In that case, I have an idea. Shion, maybe they've already suffered enough. The mountain dogs weren't only looked at the bathroom, but had to go through extra humiliation. God. I really, I keep saying, oh my god, I love Hanyu, oh my god, I love Rika. I'd forgotten how much I genuinely like Shion. Even as a villain, I think Shion may be one of my favourite villains, just because she inhabits it so well. I think more so than Keiichi, and perhaps even more so than Reina, because, when we were seeing things through Shion's point of view, what we were really seeing was such a gradual breakdown. Her paranoia may have gotten worse at the festival, but it had been going for a long time. I think the ongoing breakdown of Shion's game really started when she escaped from the boarding school. It probably started at the boarding school. And she's one of my favourite villains, but she's also just one of my favourite characters in general. She's very good. I like all the characters in this game, to be honest. Radio calls continued to come in from the mountain dogs who were fighting in the mountains. The security guards listened to them intently over the speakers. From what they could hear, it was obvious that the mountain dogs weren't doing well at all. They kept falling into traps, suffering heavy losses, all of which they'd never expected. It was clear that the mountain dogs were trapped, but they even started to think that they were being lured into something bigger than a simple military maneuver. The mountain dogs had made a mistake. They assumed the club members went to the mountains to escape from Hinamizawa, but they were wrong. They were simply being lured into the enemy's carefully prepared territory. The panicked voices of the mountain dogs, Takano's yelling, and Okanoge's reprimands could be heard through the speaker. Certainly sounded like a war zone. Phoenix 1 to Phoenix. Break time is over. We're moving in. We'll take over Heron's positions. We've already suffered critical casualties on our side, but the enemy has steadily retreated and we almost have them surrounded. We're almost there. We'll use Phoenix to overpower them. The Major will take command. I'm going in too. We'll finish them off. Hey, the Commander's going in as well. Phoenix is going in too. It's an all-out attack. Is that all-out attack? Is that a ding-dang-rompus? The only real quote I can remember from Danganronpa is that a body has been discovered. God, I should play Danganronpa sometime. I don't know. There's so many games that I want to play. I really want to play Persona 5 as well, but I don't know if I have time to dedicate to it. Eesh. Maybe that'll be a Saturday stream after I finish Nier Automata and the Nier remake. I can't believe this. Have most of our units been defeated? Who are we up against anyway? What kind of special unit are they? The security guards listening to the battle reports over the radio fluctuated between dismay and rejoicing. A cute chime rang suddenly. It was a warning chime that rang automatically when someone went through the entrance to the basement. When the chime rang, the guards were supposed to check the screen to see who was coming through. The one who looked at the screen needed a moment to comprehend what he was seeing. Hey, it's Director Irie. What? They could see the 2 security guards on the first floor restraining Irie and some girl. This is Director Irie, right? What's going on? I get it. Unit fighting against the mountain dogs are a diversion. Those two are here to rescue Tomitake. Call them later and let her know we have the director. A buzzer sounded, and a computer panel displayed information about the card being used to enter. Commissioned Officer Pass, ID 0001, Special Grade 1. Lieutenant Colonel, Kyosuke Irie, Director. Password? So, 8. Match. Fingerprint confirmation? Match. Huh? How strange. The security guards brought Irie down. That made sense. But why were they using his security access card? They were even using his fingerprint. Why were they having him do that? Wouldn't it be quicker for the guards to do that themselves? One of the guards figured it out, but it was too late. The door to the basement was open, and the 4 newcomers forced their way inside. They ran through the security camera screen and were headed straight for the security room. They had them. As soon as the door opened, the security guard started firing. Akasaka realised that if it hadn't taken him a second longer to pull back, he would have been riddled with hundreds of bullets. One of the guards pushed the desk onto its side. The paper cups on the desk fell to the floor, spilling coffee everywhere. Gross. They used the desk as a barricade. The other 2 guards started to shoot at random. As long as the guards were shooting at the rescue unit, they couldn't counterattack. One of the guards activated the emergency alarm, and another picked up a submachine off the wall. Another picked up a gas mask. It was impressive that they got their act together so quickly. A situation like this would result in a fierce gun battle, meaning that it would take quite a while for the rescue team to suppress the guards. The emergency alarm standing in the basement reminded them that their surprise attack had failed. Shit. Couldn't do it. But they're stuck in that room. While they're in there, we can rescue Satoshi and Tomitake. The mountain dogs outside would definitely hear that alarm. If they took too long, the enemy would come to block their escape route. Then they'd be trapped inside. Right. I think there was something about dealing with intruders in the security system. Irie started to speak while he tried to recollect it. She had told him he should have remembered something like that before they came in. Before Irie remembered, a voice came on over the speakers. I hate it. Looking away from screen. There has been an emergency in the entrance block. There has been an emergency in the entrance block. All areas in the research centre will be shut down as an emergency measure. All entrance area staff are to gather in the security room and put on gas masks. Please follow the security guard's instructions. The gas will be disseminated automatically in the entrance area within 2 minutes. I repeat. So we'll have to take them down and cancel the alarm within 2 minutes, or we'll be in big trouble. What kind of gas are we talking about here? Is it poisonous? I think it's diphenylcyanoarsine. Speaking of poisonous gases, I was reading a thing on Wikipedia earlier, and there was something about somebody who was taking an anthrax vaccine, and I was like, what? So I opened up the anthrax wiki page intending to look up said vaccine, and then forgot because I was in the middle of doing. I'm supposed to be working on an essay, not getting distracted, and so without thinking, I'd like closed a couple of tabs to sort of clear up mental and browser space, and immediately went back to a rather gross image of what anthrax does to a person, which I'm going to put the Wikipedia page into chat, but I'm not going to link the image, so just be warned, if you click on that, you will get a slightly gross image, but that's what happened to me, and it definitely gave me a brief shock. I think it's whatever. If you inhale a lot of it, it's dangerous, but it's not deadly. It only takes a few seconds to take effect. There are many symptoms, but the most common one is to sneeze for about 30 minutes. Isn't that also called red agent? The military used it to secure enemy territories. Huh? To Google. Agent red chemical. Agent Orange, tactical use rainbow herbicides, types. Apparently there was green, pink, purple, blue, white, orange, orange 2, orange 3, and super orange. So, not red. Okay, no more getting distracted by the US Army's military crimes. I already worry about or think about that too much. They either had to run out of there immediately or take over the security room, but since the area had been sealed off, they couldn't escape. But there were armed guards in the security room, and if the rescue unit members even peeked around the corner, they'd be shot at mercilessly. Damn, this won't work. We can't aim and shoot in this situation. Basics of indoor combat. Grenades, huh? We don't have any. If we rush in, we'll be shot at. What can we do? Satoshi is finally within my reach. Damn it. She pressed her forehead against her gun, gritting her teeth in frustration. As Kasai analysed the situation, he stood up and spoke. Everyone, let me handle this. The guards in the security room were on edge too. That was like the point in a TV show where you'd fade to black and then you'd have an ad and then you come back in, which is one of my... It's always fun/funny to me, watching a TV show which clearly is designed to have adverts and is edited to have adverts, and then you watch it on your medium that either doesn't have adverts or like use ad blocker or whatever it is, like YouTube Prime or however, to avoid adverts. And it's always fun, certain shows make it so obvious, where those edits are supposed to be. The guards in the security room were on edge too. Once the gas was flowing, everything would come to an end, but the guards knew their enemy wouldn't just sit and wait for that to happen. They'd come rushing in, regardless of the counterattack they'd face. Although the guards would still have the upper hand, it'd be a point-blank gunfight. They wouldn't come out of it unscathed. Therefore, as the deadline approached, their tension increased. The guards never even considered that the door they opened would be shut again. They fired at the door, leaving many small holes in it. After that, it all went quiet. What were they thinking? There was nowhere to hide. The gas was about to be released. Why did they close the door? For what reason did they do that? That was when a loud explosion punched a hole in the door the size of a fist. Not only the door, but the wall in the security room had a similar hole. Is it a magnum? No, that's a slug. A calm voice echoed from the other side of the door. Correct. This weapon isn't meant to be fired at a person. You know how powerful it is, right? It was not deep enough for my Casa voice, but I was not thinking. I had class this afternoon, and as it started, I started to get a piercing headache. So I took a painkiller and was working throughout most of the class, and by the time class ended, the headache had faded finally, and it's starting to come back now. So we'll see how long this goes on. To be honest, the easiest way for me to relieve that sort of headache pain is to just hold a hand over my eye, which I can do and still read, so. Sorry, you keep hearing the noise of me putting my cup down directly next to the mic due to my tiniest desk layout. Shit. There we go. The power of a slug bullet is limited to extremely close range battles, but it is also incredibly powerful. After all, it's fired from a shotgun, but it doesn't scatter. A shotgun is meant to fire scatter shots, but it can be used to fire only one huge, incredibly powerful bullet. That's the slug. It's usually used for hunting. It's used to shoot at animals, not humans. If it was to be used on a human, the arms and legs would be shattered and nothing would be left of the head. It shouldn't even be called a bullet. It should be called a cannon. It would easily pierce through the door. The desk they were using was a barricade, and any guards hiding behind the desk before slamming into the wall. The guards understood very well just how powerful it was. The kind of guns they had shot out many small bullets, so they didn't work as well through a door. But their enemies didn't care about the door at all. The weapon could easily pierce through anything. Hiding behind a desk didn't mean a thing. You understand how powerful my weapon is, correct? If you don't want to die, please turn the alarm off. Calm down. The gas will be released any minute. We have to hang in there just for a few more seconds. Don't you realise your guts will be scattered all over the floor before that happens? Kasai's voice was extremely intimidating. I can't do intimidating for the life of me. The only one who truly understood the power of the shotgun could talk that way. We don't have time. I'll give you 5 seconds. If that alarm isn't turned off in 5 seconds, well, be prepared for that. What do we do? We've got 60 seconds left before the gas is released. Calm down, he's nervous too. Don't let him take control of the situation. That was when a deep voice rang out, reverberating through the pit of their stomachs. Hey, I've been nice up until now, but didn't you hear what I just said? It must have been coming from the same person, but it had changed so much so quickly. I, Tatsuyoshi Kasai, am giving you the chance to live. Should you being a bit grateful for that, you piece of shit? Don't think I'm serious, do ya? Huh? Answer me. A roar and explosion sounded at the same time. The upper half of the door disappeared. Flashing hurts my eyes. Numerous lead balls bounced around in the room, breaking the lights and ricocheting off the walls. Shattered glass fell onto the floor. The shotgun had turned the security room into hell. The hurricane of lead balls flew violently through the room as it shattered, scattered, and destroyed everything. The guards could only cover their heads and pray. They prayed the lead balls wouldn't hit them and endured the falling glass. Before they had a chance to recover, Kasai jumped in through what was left of the door and kicked the desk aside. He stepped onto one guard's head and yelled at the others. Who wants to be minced first, huh? Is it you? What happened to that attitude just now, huh? No, I give up. Don't shoot. Don't waste my time, you shithead. Do you want to die? I've dealt with far more dead people than any of you. Sorry, please don't kill me. They dropped their guns voluntarily and got on the floor with their hands on their heads. Even Shion couldn't believe what just happened. There were several of them, and all had been amply armed. Kasai had a weapon too, but it was his presence that defeated them. Even the mountain dogs couldn't equal what Kasai once had to go through. Hell, are you taking a nap for? Do you want to inhale the gas? Can easily rip your masks off, you know? Turn the fucking alarm off already. Okay, I'll turn it off, I will. Don't shoot, don't shoot. One of the guards got up in a hurry and switched the alarm off. Kasai stood there calmly, but they were only a few seconds from the gas releasing. Shion and Akasaka came to their senses and quickly moved into the room to help Kasai subdue the guards. Kasai, you are... Never wanted to do something like that again, but it was an emergency. Please, forget about it. That was the Kasai Shion knew. Forget about it. But in the end, he hadn't killed anyone. Shion remembered Kasai telling her how terrifying shotguns were in the basement of the Samazaki residence. That was Shotgun Tetsu, and all the people at Shishibono were so afraid of. Let's hurry. The alarm has gone off already. We can't stay for long. You're right. Let's hurry. Akasaka and Kasai pulled out the guards' handcuffs and restrained them. Sure, sorry. Satoshi. Where's Satoshi? Now the security room was under their control, Shion realised there was nothing keeping her from seeing Satoshi. She was getting anxious. Whoops. Irie had shown her the map. He must be down here, she thought. She'd already started to run. I'm going too. We have to evacuate Satoshi and Tomatake. Alright, go ahead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Akasaka felt a chill running down his spine. Irie said there were 6 security guards. Shion wasn't paying attention to anything else. She was only thinking about her reunion with Satoshi. And she still can't hear in her left ear. To make things worse, the security guard was waiting on her left side. Shion had to regret letting her guard down just a bit too early. The mountain dog jumped out and grabbed Shion. She choked her neck with his thick arm. There was no way she could get out of the situation alone. Irie saw what had happened. Fortunately, their backs were turned towards him. Here was Irie's chance to attack the enemy. But today, Irie had lost a lot of confidence in himself. He felt he hadn't done anything right all day. Fighting wasn't his expertise, so there wasn't anything he could have done, but he was disappointed in himself for not being able to help just the same. But in that moment, he was the only one who could do anything. If possible, he wanted to get Kasai or Akasaka, who were both very reliable. They could take out this man in an instant. But there was no time for that. Only in this moment was his back facing Irie. And if Irie didn't do anything, the dog was sure to take Shion hostage, creating a deadlock. Enemy backup could arrive any moment, so being in a deadlock would mean death. Therefore, he couldn't depend on anyone else. He had to resolve the situation himself. He only had one chance. As the Eminem song goes, you've only got one chance, whatever. I said that and then I was like, I can't remember the rest of the chorus at all. something about, I know that like you got to lose yourself in the music moment. You gotta, something, don't ever let it go. You only got one chance. Do not let this something blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. Anyway, that's what Iria is thinking right now. Once the unit member turned around, the deadlock would begin. But was there even a way for Iria to knock him down in one shot? No, he had to. He must. There had to be something that only Iria could do. Iria took a mechanical pencil out of his pocket. It was probably the strongest weapon he had. Ow! Damn it, Director, ow! Iria stabbed the man's neck with his mechanical pencil, but it only scratched him a little. What was he thinking? The man drew his gun, pressed it to Shion's head, and created a stalemate, just as Iria predicted. Sorry, I was only thinking about Satoshi. Shion's eyes were filled with tears. Okay, Director, could you please tell your friends to get rid of their weapons? Going by that huge sound before, one of you has a pretty big gun. I don't want to get shot with that. Come on, Irie. Remember Kasai from earlier. You can do it. Don't make me laugh. Do you really think you can do it with me? Here? In this basement at the Irie Institute? What? Don't assume this is a regular mechanical pencil. It's actually a syringe that Takano developed. Do you want to know what was in it? Do I need to explain? What? If a regular person had said that, it wouldn't have worked. The Irie was wearing his white coat, and the basement was his territory. What he just said sounds very believable. He wanted to believe that Irie was lying, but he started to feel an itch on the back of his neck. H178 is a drug Takano created. It's the masterpiece of the 170 series. There's no treatment, and symptoms such as confusion, delusion, headaches, runny nose, stuffy nose, constipation, and many other things will start within a few minutes. In the end, you'll scratch so hard you'll bleed to death. The only cure is to take the antidote within 1 minute. It's a lie. 30 seconds have passed. It's going through your heart by now, and soon it'll be everywhere in your body. Don't know if there's itch yet. She could only watch this pathetic act in silence, but for the mountain dog who worked at Search and Sadie Research Center, what Irie said sounded totally believable. Shit, okay, I give up. Hurry up and give me the shot. Is that the correct way to ask someone to do something for you? Give up, sir. Please give me the shot. No, it's not good enough. It's not how you talk to your master. Tell you one more time. You ready? I'm not reading this out loud. I'm not reading any of this out loud. Irie is basically going on a rant, that's what's happening. No. You okay, Shion? Yes, thank you. Coach, Akasaka and Kasai are here. They got him. Huh? But I'm not finished. You can continue later, Doctor. Shakes head. Satoshi. There really was nobody left to stop her. Shion ran down the hallway at full speed. It was right there. There was a huge window in front of Shion that allowed her to look inside. Shion threw herself at the window. Satoshi was there, lying on the bed. He was sleeping with an IV connected to his arm. There were some wires attached to his forehead and chest to observe his brainwaves. The waves of light displayed on the machine they connected to proved that he was at least still alive, but he might be sleeping very deeply. His face was pale and it looked like there was barely any life left in him. He is alive, right? Satoshi is alive, isn't he? Calm down. Dr. Irie, hurry. Irie brought in a stretcher to load Satoshi onto. Kasai opened it up. Hurry. Shion, before we take him out of here, there's one thing I want you to promise me. Irie gives Shion a condition. What is he saying now? Shion angrily thought. I'm going to move him onto the stretcher, but don't try to wake him up. Do you understand? I want you to promise me. Why? Why can't I wake him up? That was the first thing Shion wanted to do. She wanted to tell him personally that he was free, but Irie was telling her she couldn't do that. I know it's hard. I'm going to tell you the truth quickly. Satoshi suffered serious emotional damage on that day. Fortunately, he's alive, but he can't tell friends from enemies or truth from fiction. He's suffering from a serious delusion of persecution and fear. To escape from that, he'd attack anyone. In fact, one of the clinic staff was seriously injured last year, so much that she had to go through facial reconstruction surgery. He would even attack you. Shion finally noticed it. While Satoshi was covered in a blanket on the bed, there were 2 belts over the blanket holding him down, and he also had leather straps around his arms. He was restrained to the bed. The belts had some marks on them. But is he ever going to get better? The silence that followed was cruel. Whoops, I just kicked my PC by accident. Irie wanted to tell her he'd be cured, but he was a doctor. He knew he shouldn't say anything irresponsible, and so that was why he couldn't say anything. What is it? What the heck is it? Are you saying Satoshi will never say anything anymore? He'll never rub my head ever again? Why? Why? Shion cried as she pounded on the glass. Stop. If you really care about him, please don't wake him up. That's what he wants too. If you wake him up, he'll likely hurt you. He doesn't want you to see him like that either. So please, try to understand. Why? Shion slid down the window and hit the floor, crying uncontrollably. She scratched at the floor. The sad reunion in her anger made it claw at the tiles. If Satoshi's smile was there under the floor, Shion would scratch until all her nails were gone. But he wasn't under the floor. He was right there. He was sleeping on the bed, and he wasn't supposed to be woken up. But there is some good news too. It was a very small change, but his brain waves have improved just a little in the past year. Human bodies are strong. The same can be said about their brains. There have been cases of people who received fatal injuries to their brain yet recovered completely. Satoshi is trying very hard to come back. He's continuing to fight. I won't give up either. I'm doing my best to bring him back to our side. And I will bring Satoshi back to Hinamizawa. The brain is what moves people, but the brain is only a part of the body. Something happens to the brain, the person will end up changing. That change hurts the person themselves as well as the people around them, and hurting others hurts that person even more. Irie recalled his parents, the abnormal change in his father. His mother wasn't able to understand that it was caused by a brain disorder. That was enough. That was sad enough. That was the reason he became a neurologist. Right now, there was a young boy before him, and a young girl. Before him was a fragment of the sadness from that day, a fragment of that day's regret. After his father's death, Irie learned that he was misunderstood and that it was due to a brain disorder. But it was all too late by then. He regretted not getting into the study of brains 5 years earlier, but it was too late. By now, he'd suddenly experienced so much. He'd achieved things and had confidence, but he still had regrets about that day. Irie held his fist tightly and spoke without hiding his tears. I promise. I bet my life on it. I will bring Satoshi back to Hinamizawa. I promise you. Satoshi is trying to come back. If we reach out to each other, it will happen. Shion, please trust me and wait. I promise you. I will bring him back to Hinamizawa. Irie vowed this from the bottom of his heart. Mira Lakasaga was like, can we get to the rescuing of Tamatake? Oh. And he realised something. He realised that everything he'd done was in preparation for this day. The 2 people in front of him weren't his parents, but he was going to rid himself of his regrets and devote himself to that promise. Really? Are you sure? Is Satoshi coming back? Really? Yes, he is. I bet my life on it. He is coming back to Hinamizawa, so, Shion, please wait until that day, and we'll welcome him back together. Do you think you can wait until that day comes? Can you keep this a secret from Satoko? Yes. Satoshi is coming back, I'll do anything. I'll endure anything. Please, look over there. Ah, there was something in the corner of that dark room. It was the giant teddy bear that Satoshi had brought that day. He worked so hard and saved a lot of money to buy that for Satoko's birthday. Can you imagine Satoshi leaving without giving it to her? No, you can't, can you? He will come back to you and Satoko with that teddy bear. Please, just wait until that day comes. Can I come visit him though? Of course. Can I sit next to him and read a book to him? And
Absolutely. I'm sure he'd like that too. Shion started to cry again. Akasaka came in with Tomitake, but he couldn't say anything to her. I'm glad you're safe. Once you call the Bloodhounds, everything will be okay. Well, it won't be that easy.
I'm glad that Akasaka just fucked off and did the actual things that's important.
Well, it won't be that easy. That gunfight earlier destroyed the radio equipment in the security room. The mountain dogs must have cut all the communications leading out of the village, so the only way to get in touch with Higurashi would be to leave. If that's the case, we'll have to break through in a car. Mion and the others are doing a great job at gaining some time for us, but they'll be cornered eventually. We have to take Tomitake out of the village so he can call the Bloodhounds. We have a problem. They've already cut the phone lines. They must have closed the road to town too. They're also supposed to carry out one high-explosive anti-tank weapon in case a vehicle tries to break through. An RPG-7, huh? They aren't expecting a tank, so I guess they'll be using high explosives. Even if they don't hit us directly, they might flip the car. Not easy to deal with. But unless we use the highway, it would take too much time. Can't take any detours. They're all doing great, but I don't think they'll last until sunset. We have to hurry. We don't have any time to waste her. Gotta take Tomitake to Okonomiya immediately. Coach, head to a safe place with Satoshi. Let's get out of here quickly. It's only a matter of time before they show up. Shion's eyes were swollen from crying, but she'd calmed down. Satoshi's safety depended on their victory. They had to win for his sake too. Although it was a sad situation, Satoshi was alive and he'd be back someday. Shion understood that, but yet more tears poured from her eyes. Sis, everyone, thank you. We've succeeded over here.
I know what happens soon. Ah, Hoomst. It's an email from AO3. Half the emails I get are AO3 emails because there are a couple of people I follow who are very prolific writers, and it's like, I appreciate this, but at the same time, I don't have time to read it. One of my favourite fics updated on Friday, and I did not have time over the weekend to read it, and then I've decided that if I can finish at least the first draft of one of my essays tomorrow, then I can read both of the chapters as a treat. Much you can have little of fanfiction as a treat. It's also because it's an ongoing fic. Every chapter ends on a cliffhanger and it makes me really stressed out, but in a good way, in the way that I appreciate from not from the pre-video video on demand days, but it's still stressful. Takano didn't have enough stamina to walk around in the mountains. She was running out of breath, but even so she continued to scream at the mountain dogs on the radio. She wasn't using an intercom like the mountain dogs were. Instead, she was using the communication unit on one of the back of the dogs, so he constantly had to listen to her yelling. Damn, everyone is so useless. How can they call themselves a special unit? Whatever happened to the famous mountain dogs, huh? Takano bit her lower lip and squeezed her left arm with her nails. It looks like her waist thing says I'm Japan, which I'm confused. Her arms had nail marks all over them. She was holding her grandfather's reset scrapbook in her left hand. Even Takano didn't know why she was holding it. Maybe she grabbed it unconsciously because she wanted her grandfather to comfort her. The mountain dogs had already suffered devastating damage. They had to walk around in an area they weren't familiar with, and they wasted their energy on the multitude of traps that had been set. Although they were as tough as could be, they were getting exhausted. Shit. Does the Major even know any commands other than attack? Nightingale 1 to Nightingale 13. Watch out, your left wing is down. You're next. You've got to be kidding me. Why me? Damn it. He panicked. The same thing kept happening. His team members had been going down one at a time, starting from the left flank, and he was next. Did that mean the enemy was coming from his 9 o'clock? No, the demons didn't think normally. On this mountain, being aware of 360 degrees around yourself wasn't enough. Even being cautious of the ground below your feet and sky above your head wasn't enough. Where are they fucking coming from? These bastards. Come here. Come the fuck at me. Nightingale 13 held his taser in front of him as he looked around timidly. The taser could have been a powerful weapon, but it was far more effectively used indoors. On this mountain, it was almost worthless. Nightingale 13 heard a noise behind him from a bush. He thought he saw something, so he fired his taser.
The electrodes flew out into the bush. Did he just imagine it? He felt a tug on his taser. The cord from the taser was stuck in the bush and he couldn't rewind it. If it wasn't useless before, it had certainly become that way. Then he heard a noise behind him once again, and this time he saw someone coming at him. But his weapon was useless. The newcomer growled at him. Damn you! That was all it took. Because he was so scared, he didn't think. Which was exactly what Satoko expected. Satoko, who was up in the tree, dropped a metal bucket on his head. I find it so difficult to imagine Hanyu with like her cute little froggy pockets being threatening, but there we go. I love Hanyu. Metal bucket on his head. It landed perfectly. God, my ears hurt. Oh, what the hell? What is this? The bucket had some drawings on it. What were they? They were drawings of strange, unknown creatures. They somehow resembled those strange characters you see on educational TV programs. Aren't they just so cute? Take it home with you. As Raina jumped out from another bush, she hit the bucket with a stick. Now, maybe it should be described as a strike instead of a hit. The man flew backwards. Goal! Keiichi was ready for him. The stance he was in looked a bit like sit. He looked like a batter in a batter's box. He was on 1 foot. That was a legendary 1 foot swing, created by that one world-famous baseball player. Destructive force can't be measured from just one direction. It's a function of both speeds added together. Both Keiichi's strike and the speed of his opponent created a truly amazing destructive force. Sorry. A home run bunt. Your boy Mochi is suffering. With an exhilarating and magnificent sound, the mountain dog flew into the air in the opposite direction. Then he rolled down on the ground and stopped. There, Rika awaited him. It was almost as though they calculated he'd end up here. Poor thing, poor thing. Pat, pat, meep, meep. Rika patted the bucket happily. This comforting moment for Nightingale 13 only lasted for a second. Meon shot her taser at him. Nightingale 13 jerked for a moment, then went limp. Another one down. Let's tie him up. Keiichi and Raina jumped on him and tied his hands behind his back with wire. Guess Meon's using Shion's superpowered taser. That was great. What a team we are. Oh ho ho. That was perfect. We shall do combination 7 next. Oh, I want to do 5 again. Oh, you liked that one, did you? Might have a hidden talent for using traps, Hanyu. Hanyu and Satoko high-fived. While Keiichi and Raina tied Nightingale 13 up, Rika tried to sense something in the air. Meep. Bing. I feel something coming towards us from that direction. Meep meep. There are 2 and they're both very scared. Meep back. Rika reported to Meon. She was a bit like a radar. Meon didn't even care about the guy they'd just knocked out. She was already trying to figure out their next move while looking at Satoko's map and using the info Rika gave her. Everyone eagerly awaited her next order. Why are you looking at me that way? Look at me that way. You haven't had enough fun yet? Yeah, I guess we're just getting warmed up, huh? Should we continue? Let's get them all. Yeah. Go for it, yay. Meon was a great leader. She had both leadership skills and tactical ability, but more than anything, she was great at encouraging people's spirits. There are no cowardly soldiers under a brave general, and brave soldiers fight like a million men under Meon's command. Nobody could stop her and the club members. Both Meon and Okanogi's original estimates were too low. Now Okanogi was thinking something else. Before they started the siege, he likened one of them to a well-trained platoon, but that didn't fit anymore. They were on par with an elite armoured division. Foot soldiers couldn't be in an armoured division. What Okanogi had was just a company. Why was he air support or a bombardment from a warship or an artillery base? Okanogi needed someone to pound the mountain full of holes. If he couldn't have that, he needed a submarine to fire a nuclear weapon. If he couldn't have that, he wanted to retreat. Okanogi no longer doubted it. The enemy commander was a genius. Under a mighty commander, all soldiers became heroes. He wanted to see the face of the commander, or at least wanted to know their name. But then Okanogi remembered that demons used to live in Yamazawa. He also realised that the commander had to be a demon. I guess technically yes. Nightingale 13 is down. Phoenix 4 is down. This is Skylark 10. I can hear the voices of children. I'm surrounded. Help me. Skylark 10, fall back, fall back. To where? Ah. This is Phoenix 9. I found her. I'm following her. I need assistance. Phoenix 9, where are you? I don't know where you are. Give me your current location. There's a fog. It's cold. Is this a riverbank? Phoenix 9, there are no rivers anywhere near us. Calm down. Where are you? What? Phoenix 9, answer me. Phoenix 9 is down. This is impossible. They must be the demons of this mountain. I know, they're all being demoned away. None of us are making it out of here alive tonight. Stop saying things like that. All unit leaders conduct a roll call and give your members some encouragement. Our enemies aren't demons. They're just a bunch of damn kids. Show them what we've got. I hear that. Whose intercom is it coming from? Not mine. It's not coming from mine. A bear. I was going to say, no, that's just X, but then abruptly failed to think of, no, that's just Oichi. Oishi, rather. Good jokes used. This is Phoenix 3. The wild bears here? That wasn't in the briefing. Phoenix 1, let's fall back. Give us approval to use firearms. Don't be stupid. There are no wild bears around here. It's just them. Don't let them fool you. You foolish humans. Know your sins for stepping onto this sacred ground. Be grateful to me, for I am giving you a chance to return. So creepy laugh here. Damn it, she has one of her intercoms. Don't let the enemy fool you. You fearless humans. You can only learn by making mistakes, then I shall teach you. This is Nightingale 1. Where is everyone? Where did you all go? Come in, come in. I see a helpless bird getting lost in a forbidden forest. Do you want to know that badly? Do you want to know about the world of demons? Say goodbye to the world of humans. Curse your foolishness for not listening to my warning. Gah! Who was that? Nightingale, roll call. One more down. Who was it? By the way, HQ, I have someone on my left, right? I'm not alone, am I? Do you want to hear more painful voices? What was that? What made that sound? I've seen someone jump in the train before. Made the exact same sound. It's the sound of a human body being crushed. No, I don't want to die like that. I don't want to die, I don't want to die. Please, God of the Mountain, please stop. I'm not doing this because I want to. I'm doing this because I get paid for it. 9K, 1 to base. This isn't working. Too many unit members are dropping out and it's almost impossible to get them to fight anymore. We can't maintain the battle line. We're just going to lose more men. Calm down, Nightingale 1. Rest of our soldiers are all amateurs in the field. You graduated from that hell. So what are you doing, getting shook up? Calm down and set an example. Base, there's no response from Nightingale 1. Can't believe it, but he's down. This is impossible. They are demons. No, damn it. Our enemy is even using psychological warfare. Those damn punks are winning against a professional, unconventional warfare unit. Radios are usually helpful communication tools, but in this case, they backfired. The club members took an intercom from Mountain Dog they knocked out and used it to corner the other members psychologically. It worked even more effectively because they were in enemy territory and were unfamiliar with the terrain. Also because Hanyu can be fucking spooky when she tries. The best solution would be to make everyone stop using the intercom, but that would give the enemy more chances to attack them individually. Okanogi was growing fearful of the club members as he still hadn't grasped their true identities. However, Takano still hadn't recognised how serious the situation was. She kept yelling at the Mountain Dogs to get their act together. Okanogi could tell she was exactly the type of commander who only commanded to attack and let her men die. But her reckless orders were working in a way. Although the club members were winning, the area of operation was getting smaller. The club members were trying to lure their enemies to one trap area after another. In other words, they were defeating the Mountain Dogs by allowing them to come into their territory. The Mountain Dogs were about to be annihilated, but the curtains were closing on the club members' theatre too. Okanogi realised his enemies were trying to finish this battle in a hurry. If the Mountain Dogs fell back, everything they'd done would be for nothing. He didn't want to, but he had to follow the princess's order. Okanogi figured he was finally about to get his enemies. Hanyu and Keiichi continued to act over the commandeered radio. This is great, Hanyu. You sounded like a real god. You really were awesome, Hanyu. Never thought a normal person could sound like that. That's because she is a god. Ow. But Keiichi was great too. His scream was incredible, like someone strangling a chicken. Oh, that was easy for Keiichi, no?
In our club, he's also known as the Magician of Words. As long as my opponent is a human being with ears, I can control them. Should become a voice actor, but you'd be famous. I do have to say, I also love how Reika is just straight up like, that's because she is a god, and everyone just completely ignores it. It's a trope that I like. Can you hear me? I'm Takano, Major Takano. I'm your boss's boss. Listen well. There is no god or demon, and if there is, you can still fight. Drag God down from its pedestal. Skylark and Nightingale, join up and reorganize your forces. Phoenix, you join the remainder of Heron. The enemies are near the top of the mountain. Their base is probably somewhere by the Forestry Service's storage shed. They're at the top, so of course they could see your movements. They'll be trying to ambush you. Even if you have to stab each other, make sure you take them out. Major, let us arm ourselves. We need more than tasers. Absolutely not. We finally surrounded them. If we fall back, they'll escape. We almost have our hands around their necks. We just have to squeeze them. At the same time, Okanogi received another radio call. Using that line, Mantis caller didn't want Takano to hear the conversation. Okanogi understood the meaning of that, so he walked away from Takano and answered quietly. Command vehicle to Phoenix 1. There's been an emergency. The research area of the clinic has been attacked. We received the intruder alarm from the entrance area, but it was turned off. Whoever turned it off didn't follow the false alarm procedure. We've been trying to command the situation, but there's been no response as of yet. All the security unit members in the basement have gone quiet. Okanogi understood everything. He had been fooled. He suspected our diversion, but he never even thought that the heavily armed security unit of the Mountain Dogs could be bested. If the enemies were soldiers in camouflage, then he wouldn't have been fooled. He underestimated them because he thought they were kids. But now he really understood. He understood the reason why no adults had shown up in this battle on the mountain. I get it. Did you let Kofu in Tokyo now? Not yet. Would you like me to? Do it now. Tomitake has escaped. We've closed the escape route, but I guess that's no use. They defeated even the armed security unit within seconds. I don't think one RPG could stop them. Should we send reinforcements to the blockade team? Fool. If we had any extra men, the princess would have already sent them in. Actually, you're the only one who isn't doing anything. Get in touch with the blockade team. Tell them to be prepared for a vehicle trying to break through the roadblock. Roger. Roger, we'll be ready. Everyone, listen up. I just found out that the clinic has been attacked and the hostages escaped. The enemy is expected to break through the blockade. Get the RPG ready. We'll fire at them all at once. We have permission to shoot. One of the Mountain Dogs nodded and opened a narrow case in the trunk of the van. In that case was a powerful anti-tank weapon, designated RPG-7. This was a weapon that many said changed the history of modern warfare. After all, this terrifying weapon had a firing range over several hundred meters. Watch as I open the wrong bloody window once more. And it was capable of burying most tanks in existence. The dawn of this weapon meant that they were now in an age where a lone foot soldier possessed the firepower to destroy a tank. Okay, got distracted. Maybe brains back on the game. Achieving history warfare. That was the RPG-7. Each of the other 4 members had an MP5, the weapon used to destroy the tyres on Irie's car. There was no question that the blockade team was well armed. Okay. They waited in the van until the enemy vehicle showed up. Once they saw a suspicious vehicle, they planned to stop it by moving into the middle of the road. They intended to destroy that vehicle by firing all at once. They all watched very carefully for suspicious vehicles coming from Hinamizawa. This was the only road that connected Hinamizawa to Okunomiya. It would take more than half a day to get there if they used a different route. Their blockade was where the gravel road changed to a paved road. It was what people called the village border and was their last chance to stop anyone from leaving. Hinamizawa was at a higher elevation from that point, so the vehicle would be coming downhill. They were probably expecting a barricade as well as heavy resistance from the mountain dogs. If they wanted to pass this point, the only way would be by force. They could start a gunfight, but that would take too much time. Since they didn't want to waste any, they should avoid unnecessary conflict. Ugh. Someone's stomach growled, but nobody made fun of it. That was understandable. Since all the members were getting ready for a battle, nobody even wanted to laugh. They looked at the clock. It was almost noon. Of course they'd be getting hungry. At that time, they heard a noise coming from the direction of Hinamizawa. Obviously, the car was going very fast. Here they come! The van moved to the middle of the road and stopped there. Some of them hid behind the van, and some hid in the bushes on either side of the road. They pointed their guns at the suspicious vehicle coming towards them. The car must have been going very fast, but this was a straight road. No matter how fast it was going, it couldn't escape. The car happened to belong to Kasai. The shining black paint and the sound of the engine made it clear that it was a very nice car. Wait until the last possible second. We can only fire once. Make sure to get them in one shot. The RPG-7 fires unguided rockets, therefore hitting a quickly moving target is extremely difficult. In this case, however, their target was straight ahead. If the car tried to swerve suddenly, it'd flip. If that was the case, it wasn't necessary to shoot directly at it. Besides, according to what Kasai said, its power can easily flip a car without a direct hit. Even if there was only one chance to fire, the mountain dogs were definitely in an advantageous position. Tomatake, a suspicious vehicle is blocking the road. Please, stay low. Careful. Try to hit the nose of the van. I know, I've done this before. The mountain dogs aimed at the vehicle. It was coming right for them. Not yet, not yet. Wait until it's within 100 meters. I know, just range me. The mountain dogs in the bushes laid in wait, ready to fire. The rocket on the tip glinted eerily, like it was waiting for its prey. 200, 150, prepare to fire. The soldier put his finger on the trigger of the RPG-7. Prepare for impact. 100 meters, fire. What happened? Didn't the RPG-7 fire? That was when the one measuring the distance next to the shooter noticed something. The shooter's shoulder had been shooter's shoulder had been hit and he was tumbling to the ground. Was there a sniper? I didn't hear anything, so it must have been over 400 meters away. Who cares? Fire, fire, fire! Only their regular guns could stop the car now. The other mountain dogs fired all at once, but immediately they realised something. The car had been hit by a hail of bullets at close range. Any normal car would have been on fire in short order, but there was nothing. This wasn't a normal car. Of course it isn't. It's the Sonozaki family's specially made bulletproof limousine. Kasai, spotter picked up an RPG. Don't let him fire. Huh. Do you think I'm going to miss him at this distance? Shion and Kasai were far beyond that straight road. They were in the enemy's blind spot on the other side of the hill, on top of an abandoned car. Shion was on her knees, checking the mountain dog's movements with a pair of military-grade high-powered binoculars. Kasai was lying on top of the car with a sniper rifle in his hands. Shion figured this would be where the mountain dogs would place their ambush, so the only way for them to beat the dogs was to snipe them. Both Shion and Kasai took typing lessons in the US during the Dan conflict. Kasai was now aiming at the man who picked up the RPG and was trying to take position with it. Hurry up, fire it! Huh? Again, the RPG wasn't fired and was down on the ground. The two who tried to shoot, both groaning and clutching at their wings. They were both shot in the shoulder. Jesus Christ, I can't read. The wounds wouldn't kill them, but they definitely couldn't fire that rocket. The car had arrived. The mountain dog screamed and dove out of its way. Akasaka must have been used to driving in this kind of situation. He hit the nose of the van just right and broke through the blockade. The van was hurled away and spun in a circle. After them! Let's go, let's go! Sorry for the flashing. As it were. As the mountain dogs tried to get back in the van, Shion and Kasai shot at them. There's a delay between the impact and the sound of the gunshot. It's an extra long distance snipe. Must be a veteran sniper. And a veteran spotter. They must know exactly where we are. Their aim is just too precise. The scope on a sniper rifle is made one specifically for sniping. Therefore its field of vision is so narrow that the sniper is unable to see their surroundings well. That's why it's always necessary to pair up with a spotter. A spotter uses powerful binoculars to probe the situation and communicate information to the sniper. Fun fact, the first and only time I've really ever had good success at Crucible was in the everyone matches, and what I would do is I would just grab a sniper rifle, find somewhere high and sort of out of the way, and just very carefully snipe people. And I didn't have much success, but I had enough to get the requisite number of kills for a particular quest I was working on. Snipers can't do their job alone. Their potential is unleashed only when paired up with a spotter equally as skilled. They tried to stand up, climb into the van, but ultra-velocity rifle bullets pinned them down. The bullets ripped through the air, travelling fast. The noise those bullets created was nothing like the sound from a normal gun. It almost sounded like the Grim Reaper himself swinging down his scythe. It's a nice metaphor, I'm going to have to use that one in the future. Furthermore, they could see the mountain dogs, but the dogs couldn't see them. Only those who actually had experience being sniped at could understand this fear. I can't even go near the van. Forget about us, just go. Okay, we'll go after them. There was a driver and one mountain dog in the van. They had to leave, otherwise it would be too late. The driver made a snap judgment and slammed down on the gas pedal. They after us? Yeah, they're after us. Boy, he drives well. He's catching up in that van. Sorry, please, fend them off. Yeah, I'll leave it to you. Definitely heard a noise there. Tomitake opened a window near one of the back seats and leaned out. Hot air blew into the car. Though the car was jolting up and down the bumpy road, he checked the mechanism of its gun carefully. He did it naturally, as though examining its favourite camera. The gun had been taken from one of the security guards in the basement. One of the dogs in the van held the same gun in his hands. The weapons were evenly matched. The road was no longer straight. It curved like a snake. There were some bumps and sharp curves which made things in the car fly all over. A gunfight in this situation would be extremely difficult. Tomitake realised he'd run empty in no time if he wasted bullets, so instead of firing recklessly, he carefully waited for the right distance, and in doing so, tried to convince his enemy that they were still out of range to make them close the gap. On the other hand, Mountain Dog couldn't take it any longer. He fired, wasting his bullets on the bumpy road. Some of those bullets hit the body of Kasai's car, making a nasty metallic noise. Tomitake, it's not safe to leave it out like that. Don't worry, a shooter that clumsy can't hit me. If he was my student, he'd have to start all over. In a situation like this, it's safer to wait and see for a moment. You predict their moments and barrage that prediction with bullets. Don't try to shoot the target. Try to let the bullet find it. Just like this. I can tell that Tomitake and Akasaka are going to be great friends. Tomitake, Akasaka, and Kasai, get together and, functional, capable buddies now. Tomitake fired for the first time, after cautiously waiting for the perfect moment. I'll be honest, I've always kind of seen Tomitake as kind of, fumbling, I guess? I don't know. I know he's in the army and all, but the fact that he's, an auditor sort of made me think, or maybe, he's just the guy who works behind a desk, but clearly not. Fucking teach me to make assumptions, eh? Those who understood guns would be fascinated with the shooting form. His stance was so firm he didn't lose control, even in the violent burst of shots. Yet, there was no unnecessary tension, and just enough slack. Despite being in such an anomalous position as leaning out from a car, Tomitake was shooting very precisely. It was nothing like what the mountain dogs did earlier. He shot at just the right time, so his bullet went where it was supposed to go. It was hard to believe that they were using the same gun. Nasty metallic sounds etched themselves into the body of the van, which made the mountain dogs realise just how good Tomitake was. Shit, he's a crazy good shot. He isn't just some office worker in Tokyo. I heard it once before. First Lieutenant Tomitake was transferred to the officers after an accident, but during his instructor years he was taught marksmanship for unconventional warfare units. What are you saying? You're saying he's... Tomitake started to aim for the driver's seat to pressure them to give up. The mountain dogs could tell that they were in a predicament. Tomitake was capable of hitting his targets easily even on such a bad road. Furthermore, they were in a bulletproof limousine, while the mountain dogs were in a regular van. The van which, incidentally, was facing the limousine in pursuit. All the shots had just been warning ones. Unless the mountain dogs called off the chase, Tomitake would start shooting at them soon enough. They had no chance of winning. Phoenix 1 to pursuit vehicle. The blockade was broken through, that's enough. Don't go too far. Tomitake is an expert sniper. Don't throw away your lives. What do we do? Can we let them go? Roger, this is the pursuit vehicle. Abandoning pursuit. We're falling back.
Looks like they finally gave up. They're slowing down. Phew. Even after such a gunfight, you're still so calm. You've gone through quite a bit, huh? It's all thanks to my training. Tomitake, having slid back into the car, raised his fist in victory. He was as easygoing as ever, even after a gunfight. Akasaka felt like he was finally getting to know Tomitake for the first time. They are bros. They've had their car chase-based bonding moment. First Lieutenant Tomitake, I'm glad you're safe. We were so worried that we couldn't get in touch with you. Tomitake was making a call from a telephone booth outside of Okonomiya. The phone lines around there were on a different network than the ones the mountain dogs had sabotaged. That was why he could make the call. Tomitake had called Tokyo immediately. He told Tokyo that there were some spies from the mountain dogs within its research division, which is how they found out where he was. He also told him he was captured, but that he had escaped. He told them they were fooled by the diversion and that they were on the mountain as they spoke. While he was captured, Major Takano, the ringleader, had hinted at the existence of masterminds he was working for, etc. He explained everything he'd learned thus far. Please, take control of the area institute immediately. They've already fired repeatedly, and it will only be a matter of time before the villagers find something out. I urge you to give the command for the Bloodhounds to take action. Hello, this is Oka from the Research Division. I'm glad you're safe. The Bloodhounds are already standing by in the air, approximately 30 kilometers south of Hinamizawa. We've been requesting an order to move in, but the higher-ups are stubborn and don't want any problems, so they've been hesitating. But if you're safe, then that makes things simple. I'll tell them what you just told me now. I'm sure they'll approve the operation immediately. The Bloodhounds will arrive within 20 minutes. Hey, we just got an arrest order for Major Takano and First Lieutenant Okanogi. We also got orders to secure the area institute, as well as to disarm the mountain dogs. All thanks to you. Great job. I'm guessing that Nomura's division has seen the light in RE, who to support, and is now throwing their weight behind, you know, look, we were the ones who actually took a stand and managed to shut down this, you know, terrorist act, as it were. Tomitake walked out of the telephone box. Is everything settled? Yes. The Bloodhounds are moving in. They're already standing by in the area and should arrive within 20 minutes. How powerful are they? These Bloodhounds, that is. Mountain Dogs are a multi-purpose unit, largely deployed to preserve secrecy, but the Bloodhounds are elite units, specifically trained to do battle. Both their skills and their equipment are far superior. Things will be taken care of very quickly. Akasaka looked at his watch. It was about 12:30. The Bloodhounds would arrive in about 20 minutes. Akasaka remembered how hungry he was. It was lunchtime already. He was brave enough. He would head to a noodle shop. By the time he was done, everything would have ended. For the mountain dogs, who fought well into the last possible moment, it was ending rather too soon. They were in an area where rice fields and a residential area mix. It was the border of Okonomiya. The sun was covered by a thin layer of silver clouds, and a cool breeze was blowing. It looked like it might even rain a little. The two of them couldn't even remember how many times their lives were threatened that day. They wanted nothing more than to let the rain soak their bodies. After a while, Akasaka spoke. So what do you think, Tomitake? What do you mean? I think I'll go back to Hinamizawa. They're still fighting. Yeah, that's true. But are you sure? We are safe here. Rika is waiting for me. I haven't kept my promise yet. Okay, then let's go back. I actually have something to take care of too. I was thinking of going back anyway. Akasaka, have you been on a helicopter before? I have a permit for one. They watched the breeze blowing over the rice fields for a while, then returned to the bullet-ridden car. The car started up quickly, and they drove it back the way it came. It was only noon. There was still plenty of time before the Watanagashi festival began. Such a good cliffhanger. Oh my lord. A. And B. God. They are absolutely bros. I love the image of them just like sitting there in that rice field watching the wind blow, and it's like, yeah, let's go back. You can also see them like together back in Tokyo, like Akasaka giving Tomitake karate lessons and Tomitake teaching Akasaka his like cool marksmanship. It's the start of a beautiful friendship, as the kids would say. Wait, I know I just saved, but I'm going to save again. Clouds covered the sky and it suddenly grew cool. It was going to rain a bit, according to Okanogi's intuition. He already knew that their enemy had broken through the blockade, but he hadn't told Takano about it. By then, it didn't really make any difference if she knew or not, and he also wanted to reach the top of the mountain. Okunogi was only thinking about one thing. He was thinking about the enemy's commander who made the day so horrible for him. He just couldn't accept his defeat until he saw the enemy's commander face to face. The battle was already lost. They just had a princess who didn't think they had yet. With the rest of the mountain dogs fall into the traps and ambushes, Okunogi had ordered all units except for his own to fall back from the front line and into the vehicles. The only ones left to go on were the very determined princess, Okunogi himself, and a handful of exhausted members of the mountain dogs who could barely walk. Eventually, the slope became a little more gentle. Okunogi and his companions finally arrived at the storage shack of the Forest Service. The club members were already aware that the mountain dogs had been almost totally annihilated. Both the numbers and strength of the dogs had fallen far below that of the club members. Therefore, when Okunogi saw his opponents lined up there to welcome him, he wasn't surprised. It was all the kids who'd driven the mountain dogs to destruction that entire day. They'd also fought with everything they had. Though they overwhelmed us from start to finish, they'd used up all their stamina and won their last legs as well. Still, their willpower kept them standing. A will born of the victor's honour, which God granted only to the winners. There she is. It's Rika. Okunogi, capture her. Major, how can you even say that to us under these circumstances? What? Are you disobeying my order? Oh, no. I have no intention of doing that. Okunogi removed his communication unit, his taser, and all the heavy equipment he'd been carrying. Then he unbuttoned his shirt and told his men to stay put as he stepped forward. He strode forward about half the distance towards the club members. I'm Okunogi, also known as Phoenix One of the Mountain Dogs. I'm here to pay my respects to your leader. May I have their name? The club members looked at each other. One of them was a girl taller than the others. She couldn't be that old, but her hawk-like eyes were sharp as the veteran soldiers. Okunogi didn't know her circumstances, but only those whose lives were threatened on a daily basis had eyes like that. I'm the leader of this club. My name is Mion Sonozaki. The girl stepped forward. How old are you? No, age doesn't matter. From the turmoil at the police station this morning to the battle on the mountain, were you responsible for it all? The girl didn't answer, but her silence confirmed it more strongly than anything she could have said. You've won this battle. Our princess is the only one who can't understand that. Bear with me a hot second. Okay, I don't know if we're actually going to finish it this week. We may have yet another week of the real final battle. There's nothing else we can do at this point. Tomitake broke through the blockade. I'm sure he's already called Tokyo. I don't know when the suppression unit will arrive, but it's just a matter of time, I'm sure. If you want to laugh, go right ahead. Okunogi, what are you doing? That's the enemy commander, take her down. Don't pay any attention to her. What do you want? You're a leader, and so am I. You understand, don't you? Is he surrendering? I can understand. He was in charge of the whole army, and all his men are down, so he can't just nod his head and accept defeat. So the defeated general can only requite himself by sacrificing himself, huh? Fine. Do what you need to satisfy yourself. I appreciate it. Mion took a stance. Okunogi took a stance too. Although he was nothing like Akasaka, he was still a close combat specialist. Even when exhausted, there was no way Mion could defeat him. Takano thought so too. She thought Mion was underestimating Okunogi, but Mion knew. She knew that she was the only one who could put him at ease. You ready? Take this. Huh? Okunogi readied, launched a shot from his waist, but Mion deflected it to the side with her elbow, wrapped her arm around underneath it, wrenching it back behind him and forcing it up into a hold. And then she twisted his arm even further. Okunogi was certain she was going to snap a bone. It was an excellent technique. She took his arm in one flowing motion. It was clear that her self-defense techniques weren't spur of the moment. However, she didn't break Okunogi's arm, but instead threw him onto the ground. She didn't deliver the final blow, but rather chose to look down on him. Not bad. Okunogi, what are you doing? Hurry up and subdue her. I can't do my Takano voice and like shout at the same time, so just imagine she's shouting, which I'm not doing because I live with people. Shut up. You just shut up and watch. This is a battle between leaders. Okanogi got up quickly, took a stance once again, and swung his arm down. But Mion avoided it effortlessly, and just like she did before, she grabbed his arm and turned it around. They were in the same position as before. And just like that, what happened then? She didn't break his arm, but threw him onto the ground and looked down on him. Rotation throw, huh? The way you move. It's not the Yoshinkan technique, is it? Is that a classy Kobukan one? And by the way, when you take your opponent's arm, you can knee him in the face if you want. I see. I'll try that next time. Wow, Mion's incredible. She's standing toe-to-toe with our commander. Use your weapons. What do you think you're doing? Here I come. Weird way of saying that. He had a stronger drive this time. He tried to kick right through her from a step and a half away. Yet this time, Mion stepped in to launch her own attack, jumping right towards the foot, trying hard to kick her. Mion kept herself low as she entered close range with Okanogi, shutting out his leg trying to kick her. So of course he went after her head. Okanogi raised his right arm to elbow her in the skull, but this time Mion rose up, using both hands to keep his arm from swinging down. Unlike the flowing motions from earlier, this was simply a contest of strength. His physique was overwhelmingly superior to hers, so she couldn't win that test of strength. But suddenly Mion let go and allowed Okanogi's elbow to come down. Then she stepped to the side. It's another repeat of before. Okanogi's arm was held to his back and he ended up in the same position. But what came after was different. Okanogi's face lowered as Mion lifted his arm up high, and she swiftly brought her knee into his face. It was exactly the technique that Okanogi told her about earlier, and once again he was down on the ground. That's it. You learn quickly, don't you? You know, strategies, tactics, and combat. You already have everything you need to be an effective commander. Should have been in my position. You should have been the one to lead those shitty mountain dogs. Huh. Sorry, I never wanted to be a leader of a shady unit like yours, Mion scoffed. Okanogi took it with a smile too. He wasn't trying to be humble, it was just its pure reaction. You're right. Sorry. You shouldn't waste your talent on Japanese unconventional warfare units. You could lead in other various units. Whichever you joined, you'd be one of their best. In any case. SAS? Delta Force? Lame. All of that's just way too boring. Yeah, I guess you're right. You're right. Then tell me, what kind of folks do you want to be CO for? I'm not interested in being in charge of any units at all. Being a leader's fine. Leader of the British Intelligence Service, huh? That's fitting. No way. Listen, there's only one club I want to lead. That's the club in our Hinamizawa branch school. I'm not interested in games without penalties. The Magician of Words, Keiichi Maebara, Seeker of all things adorable and cute, Reina Ryukyu, Trapmasters Toko, and the charming Enticer Rika. And last but not least, a newcomer, Hanyu Furude. I never find anything more fun than playing with them, even if I search this entire world. I just had the thought that the vibes this gives me is very much the kid from Good Omens, whose name I have abruptly forgotten, but the one who's like just cares about playing with his friends in the village that I've also forgotten the name of, looks around shiftily. Exactly that same vibe, which is nice, it's a good one. No wonder we couldn't win. With her as the leader, there's no way we could have won. Okanogi, get a hold of yourself. Takano yelled at him, but Okanogi had too many hiccups and didn't hear it. Nope, that's just me. Are we finished with the warm-up? This next one is for real. You're going to die. Be ready for that. Come on, I'll give you a fitting end. Something you've been wanting all this time. Good enough. Here I come. Keep doing that really creepily and not threateningly. Okanogi took about 5 steps backwards and breathed deep. His body twisted as he gathered all his spirit into his right fist. As predicted, my headache is coming back, so I changed my mind. We are not going to be going until we finish it, because
I have a feeling we've actually got a fair chunk left to go. So we're going to go to 11 or find a good place to pause around about 11, so about half an hour more. Also because I really should do something at work, but I kind of just want to go to bed and force myself to wake up early tomorrow and get it done. You know how it be, right? Looks around shiftily. Just as he said, this next attack would be for real. He was putting everything he had into this one final blow. Mia narrowed her eyes, preparing to parry the blow aside. The sky began to stir. They both felt raindrops on their foreheads. Here I go. I'm gonna kill you. So come get me, okay? Whenever you're done praying, go right ahead. That one tense moment was suddenly brought to an end. Okunogi dashed forward from a low position, just like a runner from the starting line. Then he added the twist from his body into the blow, as his right arm roared with all his power. A bolt of lightning punctuated that moment in time, burning the moment into our eyes. In that moment, Mion's stance hadn't changed at all. No, maybe she moved like lightning in the moment it struck. We had to recall this moment burnt into our eyes to review the scene. Okunogi had swung with his right fist, which had enough power to shatter Mion's bones. So what if 100% of his power was directed back at him in a counterattack? When the lightning struck, Okunogi's body had been flying through the air. It was a legendary technique in Japanese martial arts, passed down in judo and aikido, the air throw. It looks as if one is being thrown without his opponent even touching him, a miraculous technique that occurs at lightning speed. Of all the technique Mion possessed, it was the most sublime, advanced technique she could administer on the defeated General Okunogi. The feeling of freedom while flying in the air was more memorable than the impact of hitting the ground, supposedly. When Okunogi hit the ground behind Mion, a heavy rain suddenly began to fall. And just as it did, a massive helicopter appeared from the other side of the mountain. The helicopter's rotor stirred up the air and blew away the raindrops like a tornado. The rotor sounded much like a tornado theme. A rope uncoiled from the rear of the helicopter, and soldiers came sliding down it, one after another. The onlookers were stunned for a moment before realizing what they were seeing. It was the bloodhounds. The bloodhounds that Tomitake had called in. Having realized how bad the situation had become, Okunogi returned to the other members of the mountain dogs. Nothing was going their way anymore. The mountain dogs ran down the slope and disappeared into the woods. They dragged Kana with them, who couldn't understand what was going on. A voice echoed from a speaker attached to another helicopter circling around the mountain. To all staff of the Area Institute, today at 12:30 p.m, the Institute's independent authority was frozen and is now under the control of the Bloodhounds. As of the same moment, HQ has ordered complete disarmament of all Area Institute staff. All mountain dogs are to disarm themselves immediately and gather at the parking lot of the area clinic or the storage shack at the top of the mountain. Failure to respond accordingly will result in discipline under not only civilian law, but SCF rules as well. Bloodhound members continued to slide down the rope from the helicopter. Even at a glance, they were very different from the mountain dogs. They were armed more heavily, and the guns they had were much larger. Such things clearly differentiated the two units. Does this mean that we've won? I don't know. I've never seen this before, so I don't know if we really did. Satoko and Rika sat down and hugged each other. They were both soaked in the rain, but they sat down in the mud. Mion stood solemnly in the rain, as leader of the winning team. The mountain dogs had abandoned the field. They all ran away with their tails between their legs. Keiichi and Reina ran over to Mion. Mion, it's over. Yeah, our club activity is over. Rika's safe. Everyone's safe. Mion, it's our victory. You led us this far, Mion. It's all thanks to you. But she didn't seem to be listening to Keiichi and Reina. Instead, she marvelled to herself. I like punishments. Eh? Club activities can be cruel, huh? We fight to decide who's the loser. So that means everyone looks down on whoever does lose, right? We don't look down on anyone. We just do the punishment and that's it. Yeah, we do the punishment and that's it. We all enjoy laughing at the loser, don't forget about it. That's why I like what we do. We all laugh, including the one who came in last. And nobody gets hurt. We all laugh and then we're done with it. That Okunogi guy thought he couldn't purify his sins unless he was defeated by me. I mean, sure, it got pretty serious. We were almost killed too, but it's all over, right? The game is over. And even though it is, there's no punishment for the mountain dogs. Mion might have realised something when she threw Okunogi. Keiichi didn't think anybody else could understand that.
I don't know what you're trying to say here. Forget about him. It's all over for them anyway. Yeah, you're right. Everything is all over now. We're all alive. Nobody got seriously hurt, so let's enjoy a happy ending. Okay, sorry. Kept looking up a thing again. Let's enjoy our happy ending. That's right. Nobody got hurt. It really is a happy ending. While they hadn't yet confirmed Shion and Kasai's safety, they were correct. This was the happy ending that they'd all been fighting for. Looks around shiftily. But Mion was still thinking. She only understood the reason for that in the moment the thunder struck. But as soon as the flash of lightning disappeared, her understanding vanished as well. All she could remember was that she knew it was very important, and that shortly after, she completely forgot about it. She could only feel a great sense of loss. The bloodhounds soon surrounded the club members. At first they thought the club members were their enemies, but when Tomitake appeared, he explained the whole situation. The commander of the bloodhounds appeared to beg the club members not to say a word about anything, as it was a politically sensitive incident. It was amusing to see a man like that beg while carrying all those weapons. Of course, they had no intention of talking to anyone about it. Once it had ended, it all felt like a bad dream. If, on the following day, someone asked them what they'd been doing, they might not even remember it. This day was that unrealistic for them. So even if they were asked, they wouldn't say a word. Rika, I'm glad you're safe. Akasaka, I'm glad you're safe too, Mimi. It all worked out great too. You alright? The clinic has been occupied by the bloodhounds. The mountain dogs are all surrendering too. Dr. Irie and a boy he was hiding with have been put under the bloodhound's protection as well. Coach is safe too, is he? I'm very glad about that. Wait, a boy? I wonder who that could be. Perhaps Tomita or Okamura were injured. Stoko, I'm very happy for you. Rika's clear smile made it clear on what she'd gone through. Someone could only smile like that after a long and exhausting struggle. Satoko had no idea what that smile meant. How much time would be needed to make her understand? Still, Irie will do something about it. For certain, he will bring Satoko's Mimi back home. Just keep thinking about how cold all these kids are in their dresses and shorts. Like, geez, kids. Get a hoodie or something. That's right, Satoko. You haven't taken your shot today, have you? You can't forget about that. Quite true. How troublesome that I can't forget about the shot even in this situation. Satoko seemed to have no idea that her medication was connected to the syndrome. Perhaps she was already aware but pretended not to be. Rika vowed to herself that no matter how long it took, she was going to witness with her own eyes the moment her best friend finally parted with her tragic past. At least they only need to take the shot twice a day. It was 3 times to the previous one. Satoko also had no idea that Satoshi was involved in the development of her medication. Irie had said that Satoshi, as a specimen, had contributed much to her treatment. Even while asleep, he longed to ease her burden, and those feelings must have influenced Satoko's medicine somehow. Satoko had to inject herself in the stomach. For privacy, she ran into the grove of the trees to give herself a shot. There was no danger in her doing so. One after another, the bloodhounds dropped down from the helicopters. Each helicopter must have carried at least 20 to 30 soldiers. There was one helicopter at the top of the mountain, and 2 more halfway down the slope. Troops were pouring down from all of them, leading to the impression that the entire mountain was under the bloodhounds' control. Nobody fired their weapons even once. The mountain dogs had no choice but to surrender. It wasn't raining hard at all. The sky should clear up after 20 or 30 minutes. It was a volatile weather typical of early summer. Stoko soon returned and spoke to her best friend. Rika, I haven't seen Hanyu around. She was here a moment ago. Huh? Hanyu? Hanyu? Where are you? It was stupid of me to think that Tokyo had sent more support. They're acting as if they'd known of their loss for a while now. I was the only one who didn't know. What's going on? Tell me this minute, Okamoku. This is it. They're the Bloodhounds. Tomitake called them in. The Bloodhounds? I've heard the name before, but are they similar to the Mountain Dogs? Why aren't you fighting back? You've got to be kidding me. We Mountain Dogs are simply a counterintelligence unit. On the other hand, the Bloodhounds are a real combat battalion. There's no way we could defeat them. The remaining 3 members looked at me in exhaustion. Why are they here in the first place? We captured Tomitake. They're more spies? Who are they? Major, the clinic was attacked earlier. Haven't you heard that First Lieutenant Tomitake escaped? One of the 3 spoke up timidly, but Okunogi signaled him to shut up. Nobody told me this. When did that happen? What's going on, Okunogi? Wasn't there a blockade exactly so they couldn't escape the village? They aren't even responding to me anymore. I've been left behind. I'm the only one who didn't know. I'm being left out. The members looked at Okunogi, waiting for his command. Nobody's waiting for my order. Nobody even cares about my orders. Commander, there's a radio call from the command vehicle. One of the members handed the intercom to Okunogi. This is Phoenix 1. Commander, final orders from Kirku. Execute Kirku. Kirku, roger that. The Bloodhounds have us surrounded. We're being advised to surrender, which we do. Command vehicle, no. Ota and Adachi, good work. You're clear to surrender. Disarm yourselves and follow the orders of the Bloodhounds. Roger that, Commander. All units, listen up. The command vehicle has been compromised. The clinic is probably in the enemy's hands as well. We've lost all our backup as well as our equipment. All teams have been wiped out. I'm sure everyone is disarming themselves. The mountain dogs have been completely defeated. Not yet. Get in touch with Nomura in Tokyo. The Bloodhounds, so she'll send in units who can beat them immediately. Rika's still alive. We can activate the final operation. I must let Nomura know that. We have to restore communications with Tokyo. We really shouldn't have cut the telephone connections, but we did, so we'll have to recover the command vehicle. We'll get in touch with Tokyo on the radio. Fortunately, the men of the command vehicle surrendered without resistance, so I'm sure the Bloodhounds guard us down. Okunogi, you and the other 3 will be enough. Still the 19th of June. The operation starts on the 21st, or is it supposed to be the 22nd? We still have time. We'll manage, Okunogi. Go, recover the command vehicle immediately. Why can't you follow my orders? I'm a major. I'm your superior. Why are you listening to Okunogi but not me? Major, didn't you hear what the helicopter said earlier? We've lost. There is absolutely nothing we can do anymore. What are you saying, Okunogi? You're already giving up? You saw that Rika's alive, didn't you? What happened today was all because of the rumour that she was dead. But she's alive. That means today didn't happen. We can still use the emergency manual. As long as the Queen Carrier is alive, all we have to do is kill her, then we'll have 48 hours to execute the manual. Major, it's far beyond that point already. Tokyo doesn't care about the Queen Carrier or the 48 hours after death. Our final operation is a complete failure. Our clients must be running around desperately trying to destroy evidence. Our job here is done. I commanded the Mountain Dogs for about 10 years. It was a valuable experience. But it's all over today. And Major, your job is over too. What? What do you mean my job is over? What are you talking about? Major, your job was to rear that scrapbook in your hands. What are you talking about? I didn't expect Okunogi to start talking about my grandfather's scrapbook. I don't doubt there's a disease called Yamazawa syndrome, but the whole village going into a panic 48 hours after the Queen dies? No one's ever seen that happen. No one knows if that's true or not. Don't be ridiculous. Look, it's somewhere in here. I know it's in here. From the other studies of other similar parasites and brains that statistics say, damn it, where is it? I flipped through the pages of the scrapbook in a panic. I can't even remember which page I'm looking for. Okunogi slapped the scrapbook aside and it thudded. No, it landed in a muddy puddle. It splashed on the ground. The open pages of the scrapbook were face down in the muddy water, and already turning coloured as they soaked up the mud. What are you doing? This is the most important... As I crouched down to pick up the scrapbook, Okunogi stepped on it. A splash of muddy water hit me in the face. I had to witness my precious scrapbook being stepped on and covered in filth. Major, I don't really care if what's in the scrapbook is true or false. As a matter of fact, nobody does. What do you mean? I tried to get the scrapbook from under his foot, but I couldn't pull it out. Clients in Tokyo really wanted to see how many people would actually believe what's in the scrapbook. They didn't even care if it was the truth or lies, as long as it was believable. They didn't care? No, they didn't. They just wanted some famous doctors to research the subject and come up with a report full of difficult terminology so they could deceive people. That was your job. This isn't a lie. My grandfather and I researched it for so many years. Come on, move. The scrapbook is getting soaked through. I'm trying my best so it's not ruined, but it's no use. The queen dies and the village must be killed. All you had to do was convince the higher-ups of that crazy story. Nobody cared about parasites to begin with. They only cared if it could be used for political gain. You knew that, didn't you? And at this point, nobody will ever pay attention to any of that nonsense again. A lot of people bet on the scrapbook and they lost. The mountain dogs lost too. That's all there is to it. This isn't nonsense. It holds the truth. Everything in it's the truth. My grandpa researched it, I researched it, and this is the result. Everyone believed in it. That's why they built such a beautiful research centre, isn't it? They believed in it, and that's why Nambra got in touch with me. There must be other people who believe my work, because all this is for the future of humankind. Okanoki got fed up and kicked me. I don't weigh much, so I fell backwards and became soaked in the muddy water. Okanoki walked over and looked down at me. Fortunately, there's still something the clients in Tokyo are expecting from you. Hey, one of the mountain dogs handed a gun to Okanoki. Okanoki checked the cylinder and then threw it over to me. What is this? Major, why don't you use that to... Oh, shoot yourself. What? I looked at the gun. I'm used to seeing guns, working at the Area Institute as I do. I was never frightened by guns before, but for the first time I feel scared just looking at one. You know, this happens all the time, Major. Please take responsibility as leader of the defeated force and shoot yourself. What are you saying? Nobody's ever told me to die before. Nobody's ever told me to kill myself. If you die, the clients can just blame you for everything. Actually, Tokyo's already prepared to do that. Don't be ridiculous. Why should I have to do that? I'm starting to sob. My body is shaking all over. Well, you don't have to do it yourself if you don't want to. Maybe that's too much to ask of you right now. Okanoki pulled his gun out and pointed it at me. The other members, having realised everything would work out if I died, just looked at me coldly. I'm going to say that I tried to talk you into surrendering, but you refused. We shot at each other and I had to kill you. That's the scenario. I gave you the gun so that you could kill yourself rather than being killed by me. It's too late to show my appreciation for the time we've known each other. I don't want it to end like that. No. Who came up with this plan in the first place? I don't want this. It's your dearest friend, Nomura from Tokyo. Eh? They had a plan for damage control in case the final operation failed. Nomura's codename is Kaku, and yours is Baby Bird, isn't it? Do you know where Kakus lay their eggs? What? Kakus lay their eggs in other birds' nests. Once they hatch, they kill the young of the original owner by pushing them out of the nest and take it over. The baby birds on the ground are left helpless and usually end up eaten by mountain dogs. Oh. I used the money I got from Koizumi to pay the mountain dogs, thinking I'd gained a reliable ally. I always thought that, although Okanoki was barbaric, he was reliable. But my nest had been taken over. Major, you never had any allies to begin with. All you had to do was exactly what the clients in Tokyo wanted you to. Now it's over. Now you need to exit the stage. Take it. It's your precious scrapbook. Hold that in your left hand to pick up the gun with your right. The scrapbook was finally returned to me, covered in mud. I held it with both hands and cried. What a joke the entire life of Mio Takano was. Right now is when I should just go back inside that chain-link fence. My shaking hands held the ice-cold gun. There's only one bullet in there. Sometimes a bullet can ricochet on the scalp, so that's why people usually put the bullet muzzle in their mouths. Come on, hold the gun, point it like this, and die. Should put a content warning on here, probably. Maybe we will reach the ending. Maybe not. I think we're actually going to come up to a pretty good cliffhanger soon, but I'm not sure. In the hills of the mountain, a single gunshot echoed. With that gunshot, members of the Bloodhounds rushed in. Okanoki and the other men raised their hands in surrender. Major Takano was with us, but she refused to surrender. She tried shooting at us, so I had to fire a shot to intimidate her. Blood Retriever 7 to leader, we arrested First Lieutenant Okanoki and 3 other members of the Mountain Dogs. Major Takano was on the run. Her footprints are heading southwest, but the brush is too thick and we can't go any further. Requesting backup. Major Takano is armed. I repeat, Major Takano is armed. Retrieval leader to all units. Major Takano is on the run. She's armed, so be cautious. Patrol the area and flush her out. Flush her out is better than force her out, given that they are, bloodhounds. I'm running through the mountain, covered in dirt and still holding the muddy scrapbook. I keep falling because of the mud, and the branches and tree roots continue to torment me. I lost one of my shoes, so I decided to get rid of the other shoe too. This isn't the first time I've had to run like this. This isn't the first time I've run barefoot. This isn't the first time I felt such pain on the soles of my feet. This isn't the first time I cried like this. I repeat, Major Takano, disarm yourself and surrender. You can't escape. The mountain dogs have surrendered. You have no more allies. A helicopter above my head is calling out my name. I crawled into a hollow tree. I held my knees and hid. The last time I ran barefoot like this was a very long time ago. My feet are bloody and swollen, and I can no longer walk. I can only cry as I bite the corner of my scrapbook. Sadness and humiliation fight for dominance in my heart. When I feel sad, I cry, and when I feel humiliated, I scratch myself to calm my anger. And I still have the gun in my right hand, the one with a single bullet in it. I have to kill myself. My death is the only thing that can bring it all to an end. Killing myself is the only way to go back to that day. But when I look at the scrapbook in my left hand, I'm assaulted by sadness and fear. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Just die. Atone for your actions with your death. I recall the look in Okunagi's eyes. I know I've committed sins. There are so many sins, too many of them. There are more than I can possibly atone for. But do I have to die for them? No, I don't want to die. I cried again, and then noticed someone standing nearby. It's the girl who I met when I came to Hinamizawa when the Irige Institute was first opened. I met this girl at the shrine when I declared war on God. This girl is the god of this place. That god looked at me and sneered rather than sympathizing. Are you still trying to take God's place? Do you still deny that you're human, child of man? Long time no see. I lost this game. This is what I get for challenging God, I guess. Child of man, are you still after the position of a god? Are you still willing to endure for the sake of opposing the divine? No way. Taking a god's place really is impossible. Child of man, listen well. I will show you the way to godhood. Eh? With a gun in your right hand, end your life. The position of a god requires no flesh. Don't expect people to recognize your existence. Being a god is lonesome. You, who are a child of man, wanted to become one. Is that still what you desire? You telling me to shoot myself? Is it something that simple would make me a god? So simple. Then what is this? What have I been doing all this time? You shouldered the sins of many others. You purified all their sins by sacrificing yourself. Your courage will be praised and you'll be allowed to take a seat among the gods. Huh? You're telling me to be their scapegoat? To take responsibility for all of them and die? Fuck you. Refuse. I absolutely refuse. Why don't you want that? To attain peace in the human world, there must always be one sacrifice for one sin. Isn't that the truth of the human world? Isn't that the method for purifying sin? Didn't you want to sacrifice one girl for the future you desired? What are you talking about? I don't understand anything you're saying. You don't, because you're human. You don't even know how stupid you are to even want to become a god. I do. I don't want to die for other people in order to become a god. No way. I don't want to become a god at all. I'm fine with being human. I just wanted someone to forgive me for being that way. That's all. But why is this happening? Then how will you purify the stain? How will you pay the price? Why? Why does someone have to take the blame? They're all pushing responsibility onto other people. They maneuver this way and that, just so they don't have to dirty their own hands. Is that just what happens in the human world? That's not... Because when my parents and my grandpa were alive, things like that didn't happen. We were all happy. Nobody blamed anyone else. How did I fall out of that boat? Why am I wandering around the mountains alone in the rain? Why me? This is the punishment for my sins, isn't it? I knew it. I noticed it. I made a huge mistake, but I didn't want to admit it. And it was too late. I regretted it for the first time. So this is the punishment for my sins. The human world will want you to purify your sins. They'll be purified when you sacrifice yourself. That's the way of the human world. However, I am not a human. I'm a being above man, a being which fills the missing gaps in harmony, a being that forgives human sins. Man cannot forgive the sins of man. I am the one who forgives the sins of the children of man. I'm just going to check something super duper quickly, so you're going to have to be patient with me for a hot second.
Someone came.
Oh, no, sorry that you,
Importantly, I know.
stop it. Be muted. Okay, well, I can't watch the thing that I'm trying to check, and, like, not have it be bad, but I had an idea, and I want to maybe later confirm it. For now, I forgive you. Demanding a sacrifice be paid for sins isn't the way of the human world, it's the way of demons. So this is not the world of man. This is a world full of demons, created by man and demons infesting them. Humans cannot end that way of their world. So I became a god to grant that end. It was over 1,000 years of pain. I wanted to come down from this place. I desired a world where God doesn't need to make peace. And finally, after 1,000 years' time, I have found that fragment. Come, child of man. I will forgive your sins in my name. Kneel and repent. Ask for forgiveness, and you shall receive it. God will forgive you. God will forgive your human sins. The god in the form of a little girl walked up to me and reached out. As I knelt and looked down, she touched my head. Hanyu, where are you? Hanyu, answer if you can hear us. I heard voices in the distance. And then I saw a girl standing in front of me. She's one of Mion's club members, my most hated enemies. Shit, she's found me. The rain had already ceased. I decided to come out of the hollow tree. After the rain had grown so humid, I was starting to sweat all over. I'm soaked in sweat, mud, and rain. I feel filthy. I've been bitten by mosquitoes and my body is itching all over. So I hate the mountains. Don't say a word. I pointed the gun at her. The girl just looked at me calmly as if she didn't see it. At the very least, she did follow my order. What should I do? Should I take her as my hostage? I only have one bullet. How long can I keep running for? Hanyu, where are you? Damn, she really is lost. Ah, there she is. Hanyu. Hanyu, where are you? I really am unlucky to the end. Or maybe you could call this a kind of luck. At the end of it all, I managed to get some vengeance. Do you know what this is? It's a gun. Don't you dare move. The tables have turned now. Damn it, why now? Mion, if you don't want anyone else to get shot, step forward. No, don't do it, Mion. Mion stepped forward quietly. She certainly has a lot of courage. No wonder she's their leader. Thanks to you, I've been ruined. Some scary men on the mountain want me dead. They won't forgive me, but I can't just go out like that. At the very least, I want some revenge. Ah, no, you only have one bullet in that gun. That's right, but that one bullet could kill Mion, couldn't it? Takano, you going to shoot her? Don't move. If you do, I really might just fire this gun. Don't aim if you move. Just stay behind me. How courageous. Is this some spirit of self-sacrifice? Rather be shot yourself than letting your friends be shot? Well, it's not that easy to kill someone with just one shot. Of course, it depends on where you hit, though. Surprised. How can you be so brave? You want me to shoot you for all the others? Just so you know, if you think that I'll hesitate to shoot because they'll rush over here once they hear it, you're sadly mistaken.
Go ahead, shoot me. But after you do, my friends will rip you to pieces. Let them try. They say you dig 2 holes when you curse another. Going down along with the great commander who made Okanogi surrender wouldn't be so bad. Go ahead and shoot me. But make sure it's me you hit. If you shoot anyone else, I'll put you through hell. Oh my, I'm shaking. No, don't, Leon. Takano's serious. She really will shoot you. Somehow we'll have to buy some time. Someone from the Bloodhounds will come by for sure. I'm sure they will. But I'll shoot before I lose my chance. Let's see, where should I hit her? I'm not good at this, so forgive me for not being able to aim that well. Mion, you aren't serious, are you? Don't anyone move. I'm the leader of this club. If I can protect you all, I'll be satisfied with that. If I don't make it, set up a shrine inside of my locker and pray for me there. You'll be taking over my position, Keiichi. Help him out, okay? Mion is prepared to die. I'm already cornered. I won't accept any words of negotiation. Mion understands that. She doesn't want anyone else to be killed. That was why she chose to be a shield for her friends. That was an easy decision to make for her, because none of her friends would end up hurt. If she ends up just getting injured, that would be a stroke of luck as far as she's concerned. Even if she doesn't make it, she thinks that's far better than seeing any of her friends die. And that's why Takano will shoot. Even though she understands Mion's noble intentions painfully well, it's too visceral for her to accept, so she'll shoot. I will pull the trigger. With all the absurdities of the human world riding on that bullet, I will shoot her. You all play games often, right? Have you ever played Old Maid? No. We play Old Bachelor there. We use the same rules. The human world is just like a game of Old Maid. Everyone's trying to force the Old Maid onto someone else. It's a game that seeks to determine not a winner, but a single loser, the sacrifice. You see, I picked the Joker, but there's nobody else to pass the card to. That's why I'll shoot you as my revenge. Fitting for this irrational world of man, isn't it? I'm preparing myself to shoot. There's no hesitation left in me. I will shoot her. I'm serious. Mion closed her eyes and opened her arms to try and shield her friends as much as she could. And that was when Hanyu stepped forward and placed herself in front of Mion. Hanyu, get back! Brave Mion. Ow, fuck, my shitting legs have gone to sleep. Oh, Jesus. I've witnessed your courage. That's more than enough. If the Joker can't be passed to anyone else in this human world, then it's my job to accept it. Hanyu, what are you? Rika, I had a lot of fun in this world. Thank you for letting me join the club. It was so much more fun to be in it than just to watch, so thank you. I enjoyed myself. I was so happy spending time with all of you. In that moment, Hanyu glared at me adamantly. Now shoot me, child of man, with that sin you must foist onto another. I will accept it. Okay. Fine, die. The club members must have thought I was joking, or bluffing. They didn't think that I would actually shoot. There was a noise like something exploding. In a world where time became as sticky as syrup, we saw it happen. The silver bullet hitting an invisible wall in front of Hanyu, as though the wall was protecting her. The bullet wanted to pierce Hanyu's chest, but it just couldn't reach its goal. A bead of sweat formed on Hanyu's forehead. She had stopped the bullet with an invisible force. Hanyu! I'm okay. I can do this, even in human form. Sorry for the flashing. Silver Bullet was being pushed back. Takano was startled by this otherworldly phenomenon, but then she spoke one phrase. You... monster. The silver bullet smashed through that invisible wall. There was no longer a wall at all. There was no wall to protect Hanyu from the bullet. The bullet approached Hanyu's chest. Somebody let out a silent scream. Nobody could stop it. Nobody could stop that bullet. In that world of frozen time, nobody could stop the bullet that was just inches in front of Hanyu's chest. Her friends had seen this scene before. The moment of checkmate. No matter how much they screamed, there was no way to avoid this tragedy. They knew that from their memories. You will die for sure. You will die. Think about the good old times as much as you want. When you finish doing that, the bullet will pierce your chest, drown in your own blood. Unless I was prepared to do so, I wouldn't be here. Hanyu thought that this would take care of everything. She wasn't supposed to exist in the first place. She would leave the stage and the rest of the cast would stay unharmed. This is how it's supposed to be. But in that moment, something happened to surprise even Hanyu. In the world of frozen time, in which nobody could move, Rika reached out and put her hand on the bullet that was stopped in midair. How could she move? Even Hanyu couldn't move. Why could a mere human like Rika grab that bullet? Don't be so surprised. You've already learned about that. You've learned about how to make a miracle happen. A lot of amazing things happened today, but none of them were worthy of being called a miracle. For you all believed in each other, it was supposed to happen. Therefore, I will perform a real miracle in this very last moment. I am the reincarnation of Ayashiro-sama, after all, so let me make a miracle happen at the very end. God. Got chills, they're multiplying. Rika rubbed the frozen bullet gently, very gently, and then held it and embraced it lovingly, her hands at her chest. In that world where not even Hanyu could move. Now I realise that neither Takano or Hanyu listen when other people talk. Didn't you hear what Mion said? We don't play Old Maid. We play Old Bachelor instead. Takano laughed and said they were basically the same game, but they're totally different. In Old Maid, a single joker, an unharmonised element is added to a full harmonised set of cards, and people try and foist it on one another. But in Old Bachelor, one card is removed from the harmonised world, and everyone foists the unharmonised fragments on each other. It's different than having a joker, because everything would be in harmony if there wasn't something missing. Players try to get rid of something in both games, but what they try and get rid of is very different. In our game, the loser is left with one last card too. I can understand how Takano thought they were the same thing, but they are different. Because in our game, if the missing card was added back in, there would be no loser. Hanyu, the missing card in this world where someone has to foist their sins onto another, has joined the game. So this game has no losers. Yet you're still trying to take one card away? What a waste of a miracle. This world doesn't need a losing card. That is the answer I finally reached after a 1,000-year journey, trying to find a miracle. The answer has always been there. It was there in the very first game with Mion's club. There was always a loser because we were playing a game of cards with one missing. If we could fill in for the missing card by believing each other and helping each other, then it would complete a full deck of 52 cards. Oh my god! Sorry, I just realised why there were 52 fragments. And the 53rd, which is the secret one, is the Hanyu fragment. Does a scream. Can't believe that only just struck me. A complete world without a loser. A complete world where no one is left out. Nobody has to stay out of the circle. Nobody has to cry or be burdened with sins. Change my mind, we're finishing this today. I change my mind backwards and forwards forever. I'll finish this and I'll pass the fuck out, wake up early tomorrow and get my you-know-what done then. A world where everyone holds each other's hands and forgives each other's sins. When people live, there will be sin. What's important isn't to avoid sin, but to forgive them. A world can only become ugly and twisted when people try and stay pure. Let us accept our sins. Let us all forgive. That's the answer Rika Furude reached. A complete world. A world free from the sins of the human world, where one has to become a loser. Rika reached that as a human being. After an unbelievably long time, she finally reached it. Welcome home, Lara. The frozen time had begun to thaw. There was smoke coming from the muzzle of Takano's guns, so it was definitely fired. However, nobody got hit. Keiichi looked around fearfully to make sure nobody was bleeding, but they were all fine. Nobody had been shot. You missed. Serves you right. The tension lifted in Mion's body, and she began to sweat all over. How did I miss it this distance? All the club members thought the same thing. It was a miracle that the bullet didn't hit anyone. The club members had all felt the same way. They were all thinking, if it's going to hit someone, let it hit me. However, Rika Furude wished for a miracle that was far beyond that. Rika wished for a miracle that was higher than self-sacrifice. She wished for a world where the bullet wouldn't hit anyone. She wished for a world where Takano wouldn't be hurt because she shot someone. Footsteps were rushing towards them. Takano tried to run, but she tripped over a root and the scrapbook in her hand scattered everywhere. As she tried to gather up the papers, members of the Bloodhounds surrounded her. All the bloodhounds pointed their guns her way, and some even poked her with them, but Takano still didn't stop gathering up the papers. Some of the men stepped on the papers, and Takano tried to pull them out from under them. She tried to pull them out, begging them in tears not to step on her precious papers. Major Takano, you are under arrest. So it's all my fault, is it? The club members, feeling bad for her, looked at the ground. Stand up. Put your hands behind your back. Hey, don't resist. No. I want to take my grandfather's scrapbook with me. No. Takano just wanted to pick up the pages of her scrapbook, but the bloodhounds, thinking she was just resisting, pulled on her hair to try and make her stand up. Although this was her fate, it was too hard to watch her be treated that way. And then a noble voice resounded amongst them. Wait. Radiating with divine light, a man appeared. They all knew this man very well, but they'd never seen him look so determined. I'm First Lieutenant Tomitake from the Research Division. I'll take it from here. But, sir, we've been ordered by headquarters to bring her back to Tokyo immediately. Can't you tell? Just look at her. Look at all the scars. She's been scratching herself. She must have Hinamizawa syndrome. There were lots of horrible scars on her wrists, arm and neck. Takano had scratched herself throughout the day because of all the stress. There was no way for anyone to be certain if those marks were symptoms of the syndrome. TMI time, the fact that Takano scratches herself from stress, turns my stomach, because not so much now, but there was a time at undergrad when I was fucked up in the brain and not yet anywhere near as stable as I am now. That I did exactly the same thing. Wahoo! We love to be insane in the brain, mental chillness. No way for anyone to be certain if those marks were symptoms of the syndrome. But when Tomitake said that, it certainly sounded true. But the Major must have been given medication to prevent her from contracting the disease. There's no way she should have it. Haven't you read the report? It says the inoculation isn't 100% effective. If you read the report completely, you'd know that these are the symptoms of the terminal stage. The Research Division thinks the treatment should take priority. We must determine if this incident was truly her will, or if she became delusional due to the syndrome, leading someone to take advantage of that situation. We have to be very, very certain, otherwise it will be impossible to resolve this matter. Was it her fault, or was it the fault of her disease? It's impossible to determine that right now. To be sure, she has the right to receive treatment and is obligated to let herself be treated. Chiro. Take her to the Irie Institute so she can be examined immediately. Notify Lieutenant Colonel Irie so he can prepare to treat her. However, from here on, the Major will be placed under strict observation and all activities will be restricted. The particular order should come from command through Colonel Walker, Director of Investigations. The Bloodhounds conveyed all this information over the radio. Nobody had any objections. Their job was to arrest her after all. Any interrogations or investigations after that were the job of investigations. So if those were the orders from investigations, then that was that. Tomitake walked over to the muddy figure of Takano. Chiro. Takano buried her face in his chest and cried. Only Tomitake and Takano knew the meaning of those tears. Sorry for being late. I'm here for you. Chiro. You're not as bad as you think you are. You can start over. You can start your life over as Miyoko Tanashi. I can't. I've committed too many sins. I shouldn't be allowed to start over. I should be dead. Otherwise, the weight of my sins will. Well, that's true. Your sins may not be so light, but don't worry. I'll be with you. We can atone together. Let's atone for Miyoko Takano's sins, and let's bring back Miyoko Tanashi together. Until then, I'll be right here with you. Can I continue to live? Can I live? Everyone tells me that if I die, things will work out, but can I still live? You're saying I'm allowed to live? Can I be forgiven? The world may not forgive you, but so what? I'll forgive you. So let's live. Death can't atone for sins. You must live and ask the world to forgive you, and then start your life over. Then you'll remember. You'll remember what kind of person you used to be and what kind of smile you used to have. After a while, Takano was taken to the Irie Institute in handcuffs. She was, however, handcuffed with her hands in front of her. She was holding the scrapbook. Tomitake had cleaned the mud off of it. The downpour from the early afternoon had passed. The cicadas began singing, reminding everything that this was normal June in Hinamizawa. It was so hot, despite being June, and the sky was brilliantly clear. Someone asked someone else the time. She looked at her watch. It was 3 p.m. The Watanagashi festival would be starting at 5. It was almost time. Even from there, the Furude shrine could be seen. There were red lanterns hanging all over. Once the sun went down, those lanterns would be lit. It was almost time for the Watanagashi festival. And with that, everything would end. When the Higurashi cry, the game that stretched across different worlds has ended, and what the winner obtained after the victory is that the game ended without a loser. Hanyu was prepared to leave after the game was over, but she was still there. She was allowed to be there. She wasn't the card that was taken away. The card that was taken away to play their game of Old Bachelor was no longer there. The breeze rustled Hanyu's sweaty, messed up hair. She was dumbfounded. Rika went over and stood next to her. She didn't need to say anything. She only smiled at Hanyu. That girl had pretended to be a bystander, but decided to step onto the stage. And then she thought that was enough and tried to step off of it. Those memories of a bright time on stage. She tried to step off, but someone grabbed her sleeve and stopped her. She was told that she could stay. Then she realised she was still on the stage, and she didn't have to leave after all. There was a spot for her on the stage, and she was no longer a bystander. And that was an unbelievable miracle. She didn't even exist in the script. Nobody needed her to be there, but the miracle had allowed her to stay. You suffered so much during your journey. This miracle isn't even enough to repay you for what you've gone through. Rika? No, this is more than enough. This miracle is more than enough. Rika smiled at Hanyu one more time and passed what was in her right hand. Hanyu felt something cold and hard. What was it? Hanyu slowly opened her hand and looked at it. It was the bullet Takano had fired. It was proof of their miracle. It was the proof that Hanyu could exist there. It was the proof that they could be together forever. It'll be dark soon. It's time for the festival. We'll have so much fun together. You can't just watch us anymore. I'm sure there'll be plenty of punishments to torment the poor newcomer. I don't have to just watch the Watanagashi festival, huh? God, I'm fucking choking up. That's right, because you don't watch a festival, you enjoy it. Were they testing the speakers? It was still bright outside, but there was music playing already. The cheap dubbed BGM collection of festival music could be heard from the Furude shrine in the distance. It sounded so exciting to her. This was what she'd wanted to join in on all this time. Rika held her hand. Let's go together. Let's go to the Watanagashi festival. All of us. Together. Yeah. They had almost too much energy left. It had been a long day and many things had happened, but they still had the energy to go to the festival. It was, after all, the special day of Watanagashi. The curse at Oyashiro-sama had been lifted, and no tragedy would ever occur again. Sorry. They heard the SDF helicopter near the mountains, but rumour had it they came to the wrong place for their training. It was the first peaceful Watanagashi, the first one without a tragedy since the dam conflict. The villagers had noticed that the phone lines were disconnected during the day, but it was fixed so quickly they didn't pay attention. They heard the SDF helicopter near the mountains, but a rumour had it they'd come to the wrong place for training. The elderly villagers laughed and said that the young men of the National NDF needed to pay more attention. Some people say the SDF even came to the Irie clinic. The villagers didn't even get suspicious about that. They assumed that the Irie clinic had started doing physical checkups for them. There were pieces of broken glass on the roadside near the village border as if there was an accident. Some people wondered how anyone could have had an accident when there was no obstruction on the road. The elderly people said to each other they always had to drive carefully, even on a familiar road. But it looked like only a trace of a normal accident, so they didn't get suspicious. The rest was a ghost story. The villagers had an extra firework to signal the festival taking place. It wasn't an echo. The people in charge of the fireworks were puzzled, but when Rika said Oyashiro-sama must have shot the extra firework, The villagers simply believed that it was true. It was the night of Higurashi, the biggest festival of the year. The villagers forgot their worries and enjoyed themselves. The club members were doing great as usual. Sorry for all the flashing on screen. They were doing so great that they were all taken to the main tent and yelled at by the mayor. That was a normal Higurashi night for the villagers. But there was one thing that was very different. The girls fought for an unimaginably long time at many different worlds for the sake of this night. However, nobody would ever know that. Oh, there was another big change too. Rika Frude said she wanted to go to a pool in the summer. It's unusual for her to say she wants to do something. She wants to see the stars. She wants to go on a camping trip. She wants to look at the sunflowers. She wants to make the school into a haunted house, etc. There are so many things she wants to do over the summer break. Right. Rika Frude, for the first time, is making plans for after June 1983. Because this is the first summer break she's going to experience after 100 years of repeating the same life. An all-new summer vacation. Who would stop her from getting excited about that? Rika Frude is looking forward to waking up before Stoker to rip the page off the calendar at the end of June. Rika Frude's infinite future has begun. There are infinite possibilities, yet she can only make one choice. But that's why it's a great world. Let's talk for a moment about the people who fought with Rika. Mion Sonozaki has vowed to study hard so she can continue her education after the summer break. According to Keiichi, even that may not be enough time for her. However, how can the legendary club leader, Mion Sonozaki, fail an entrance exam? She'll more than likely find a way to get into the school she wants to go to. Hopefully it isn't an illegal one. Anyhow, she's looking forward to enjoying her final summer break, so she has tons of plans. The club members can't get away from Mion even during the summer. Once you're involved with her, she'll always find a way to get at you. No matter how much you want to be alone, you'll never go back to spending a boring summer by yourself. Keiichi has been asked by Mion and Chie to be their next class president. He was also asked to be the next club leader too, but he declined immediately. Keiichi likes the club because Mion runs it. He continued saying it's Mion's club until she got mad. Keiichi can't understand why she's so angry. Well, he wouldn't be Keiichi if he wasn't dense. So things are rather lively around him again today. His good name continues to spread, even in Okonomiya. Reina Ryugu is growing more energetic every day too. Stoko, Rika, and Hanyu spend every day in fear of being abducted by her. Still, she's been acting more mature lately. She takes care of her younger classmates, and she's almost like a mother figure to the class. She's like a mother to all of the club members too. After hearing that, Keiichi said he'd be a father for the class. As usual, Reina thought about that too much and blushed. Stoko Hojo was as lively as ever. She used up most of her traps on the mountain during the battle with the mountain dogs, so she's setting up new ones for the next event. Rumour has it that some members of the Bloodhounds were so impressed with her trap techniques that they asked her for some lessons. There's supposed to be a training area near Mount Fuji, and they asked her to set up her traps there. It's not a very good idea. Sea of Trees really will become a forest of no return. Either way, Stoko keeps saying how she wants to fight against the Bloodhounds next. She's invincible. Also, she's become a great cook. That's because Hanyu has been teaching her. According to Hanyu, Stoko is a quick learner compared to Rika. Stoko's dream is to master fried chicken, which is her brother's favourite, and welcome him home with it. I'm the only one who knows this, but her dream may come true very soon. As for her brother, Satoshi Hojo has yet to return home. His condition is unchanged. If there's been any change, it's in Shion Sonozaki. She goes to the clinic on her days off. Nobody knows why she goes there, but she seems to be very happy, so nobody pays attention to it. Mion has teased Shion by saying that maybe she's planning on getting implants, but Shion just smiles. Also, for whatever reason, she's been visiting her relative's clothes shop and buying up all kinds of men's clothing. Lately, she's started buying more than just men's clothing, but the truth is shrouded in mystery. Biggest change is probably that Shion's baby Satoko nowadays. She tries to make Satoko call her Nini, which only annoys Satoko. Kiosk Irie has 2 jobs now. On the one hand, he is a respected doctor, and on the other hand, he's a creepy dude. The Irie clinic was supposed to be closed, but the villagers pleaded with the authorities not to shut it down. While Irie isn't originally from the village, he and everyone else feel that he's one of the villagers now. He's an indispensable part of village life. The conservative attitude towards Hinamizawa syndrome is gone, and now it's being researched very proactively. The syndrome is being researched so passionately that, hopefully, in the near future, all the victims of this disease will be freed for good. Also, later on, Irie will publish an advanced article about the influence of the brain on human behaviour, which will surprise people in the medical world. I won't go into the details here, but will talk about how one should hate the sins instead of the sinner. The deceased Hifumi Takano and Mio Takano's names will be mentioned in that article. Jiro Tomitake still visits Hinamizawa every season. He is still known as the fighting travelling photographer, and he continues to walk around the village looking for good picture spots. However, he isn't seen in the village as much as before. His bicycle is always parked around the back of the clinic, so maybe he spends a lot of time there. Some villagers say maybe he's being sick and being treated, but his bright smile proves they're wrong. Mio Takano hasn't been seen since that day. Nobody knows where she's gone, but obviously Tomitake isn't worried, so she must be doing fine. She'll probably show up one day out of nowhere and start telling ghost stories to scare some kids. As for Mamoru Akasaka, what happened with him was pretty funny. His wife and daughter followed him in secret. They pretended to run into him at the festival. Rika. Things were complicated all of a sudden. Akasaka's wife smiled, but she choked his neck with her braided hair. Her arms were folded, but her braid moved like a tail. She tortured a man who destroyed a special forces unit without even using a weapon. Rika continued to tease him, making the situation even worse. However, Akasaka's family liked Hinamizawa, and they said they wanted to come back. Akasaka's daughter and Rika grew so close that they seemed like sisters. Kurada Oishi has gotten back into playing mahjong. For whatever reason, Akane Sonozaki has joined his table too, and there's rumours that a riot squad almost got dispatched in the mahjong parlour one time. His colleagues say Oishi has calmed down quite a bit. It's probably because he's reached closure within himself, but his colleagues know nothing about that. He's planning to move to Hokkaido when he retires, but he wants to come back every summer. His bright second life is waiting for him. Tatsuyoshi Kasai hasn't changed much compared to the others. To some people this was a life-changing event, but for Kasai it was just another episode added to his tales of heroics. According to Kasai, this incident was just a little bit bigger than usual. If it was just a little bit bigger than usual, then what in the world would be needed to impress him? Shion insists he'll tell her, but Kasai only tells her that it's a secret. Also, he regretted exposing that part of his past. Shin keeps begging him to tell her all about it, but he simply ignores her. Let me talk about myself too. I, Hanyu, am doing great in my new life as Hanyu Furude. I'm finally getting better at playing games, and now I'm taking the role of the Club Scout course, a position formerly reserved for Keiichi Maebara. I have a bad habit of believing everything I hear, so Mina and the others always tell me some strange things. Thanks to that, I'm getting tougher, to put it in a good way. Shrewd, to put it in a bad one. But then, I need to, otherwise I wouldn't survive in this club. I'm going to continue to learn stuff through these club activities so I can live in this human world. Sunday, June 19th, 1983. Night falls on my longest day of the past 1,000 years. The club members are having a blast. A lot of people are here. The stall vendors are still doing business. The speakers are blaring rough yet exciting festival music. I've known all of these, but how wonderful it is to actually feel and hear them in person. I thought I knew. I thought I knew because I'd been following and watching them, but that was completely different. I knew of it, but this is the first time I've actually experienced it. We had a takoyaki eating contest. There was no octopus in it, but it was still tasty. We had a shaved ice eating contest. I would have enjoyed the shaved ice if I'd eaten it more slowly. I bought a candied apple for the first time. Everyone took a bite from it. It was tasty, and it was fun. We played a shooting game. I didn't know how difficult it would be to shoot a target, but it was fun too. Also, we played a shady lottery game. It was one of those things where you pulled a string and got a prize. Nobody got a good prize. We all complained about it to the vendor. That too was just so much fun. Then it was time for the dedication dance. Of course, we go there early, so we commandeered the best seats. I snuck out and stood where I was told to. I could see better than the other club members. This was the spot where the object of worship sat. This is where I was supposed to be during the ritual dance. No, this is where I thought I had to be. But seeing the dance from that spot wasn't fun. Therefore, I returned to where I was and sat with everyone else. They saved me a spot. Everyone rubbed my head while asking me where I went. I apologised by saying ow ow. Made me very happy. I watched the performance in a crowd of people. It was the best dance I've witnessed in the past 1,000 years. Oh my god, my feels literally choked me up. I couldn't keep either my happiness or my tears from flowing out. After the dance was over, a handful of cotton was passed around to all the villagers. We let the cotton absorb all the filth and sins of the past year and washed it down the stream. Cotton is cotton. Obviously, it's not human. We use cotton instead of a human, but so that nobody is sad. This is the way to purify sins without making anyone suffer. Here you are. This is for you, Hanyu. Do you know how to do it? Yes, I do. I go like this and drift it down the stream, right? The girl who gave me the cotton wool took the letter I from her name during last year's Watanagashi and washed it down the stream. By doing so, she was freed from her suffering and began a new life. We drifted our sins down the stream. It's not the same as pushing our sins onto the cotton. Instead, we wash away our own sins and forgive ourselves. We forgive each other, we help each other, and that's how we create our own story. I put my cotton in the stream gently. The cotton went down the stream, into the world where sins are cleansed. I let my bare feet soak in the clear stream as I watched the long, long line of cotton flowing down the stream in the dark, surrounded by people sending their cotton flowing down the wondrous stream. A, I love our artwork. B, oh my god. This is a complete world where all the fragments were put together. This is an ideal world. What else is there? What else do you need? Hanyu Furude still wants more, because we can be even happier than this. We can be happier if we wish to be. Not a long time from now, but in the near future. Then when is it? I told you, it's in the near future. We'll be happy then too, see? It's good, lads. Everyone is entitled to happiness. The difficult part is accepting that. Everyone is entitled to happiness. The difficult part is fulfilling that. I too am entitled to happiness. The difficult part is working out a compromise. Because from now on, I'm going to live a much, much happier life. I'm not going to compromise with justice. We'll retrieve all the happiness we missed. 100 years worth for me, 1,000 years worth for you. Please don't get me VOD muted credit song. A report on the coup d'etat at the Area Institute. Proposal. Regarding the coup d'etat at the Area Institute. One of the responsibilities of the Institute was the administration of Emergency Manual 34. Certain personnel, however, conspired to execute the manual under false circumstances and accepted bribes to do so. Those individuals include the Institute's Subdirector Miyotakano and First Lieutenant Okunogi. Authorities at the Institute were detained immediately. An emergency response unit was sent to attack the Institute and detained all inside. Workers at the Institute surrendered and were secured by headquarters. Irie confirmed that he had nothing to do with the incident, but due to his responsibility, he was handed over to the disciplinary committee, which removed him as director. Takano ringed in the incident. So she means it is being treated. Okunogi accepted bribes, special elements, and Jade First Lieutenant is being wanted information.
Per the original plan, Research Institute in Himalaya will complete within 3 years. New director has been sent from HQ and decide previous director will attend research symptoms. Some with inquiry before his concerns about management investigation. What very instance? If this is acceptable, if I may obtain your approval, I will report to your thing tomorrow. I'm sorry that I sped right through that. It went too fast for me to read. I guess the TLDR is that Irie had nothing to do with it. Okanogi accepted bribes and was going to be investigated, but decided not to because he was being good with information. And Takano was considered to be the ringleader, but it's suspected that she was investigated with the last level of Hinamizawa syndrome, and so she's being treated as a priority. And I guess the institute is going to close in 3 years. A new director is being sent, but Irio is going to continue his research underneath that director. And as we've noticed, had told to us by Hanyu, it's much more direct rather than being sort of hidden. Higurashi Kyoku arigatou gozaimasu. God, I'm desperately hoping that this credit song doesn't get me word muted. If it does, I'll just have to mute this entire section and do a cry. Directed, recorded by Dai, mixed by Ems at Labitum Records. Seventh strumming party. I can't remember any of my Japanese, so I'm not even going to begin to try and translate this. Motomoto gambaruso. Higurashi, when they cry. Oh. Oh. Genuinely can't believe that the main story arcs are over. The game series isn't over by any means. We've got a whole arseload of console arcs to get through. Staff room has been unlocked. You've received a new tip. The Forbidden Trasher. Onigiri no Ryu. And so, the shining future. Right. You're going to have to check with me. Bear with me, rather. I want to... Oh, apparently we have to... So apparently in order to get fragment 52, we have to connect all the fragments after finishing the story. So I think what I'm going to do is put that onto YouTube as a bonus, but for now we'll read the tips in the staff room. Whoops, I wanted to go to extra, here we go. So chapter jump. I wonder if I can... I'm feeling if I go, it'll start me from... Yeah, it'll start me from scratch. Okay. Never mind. Never mind. That'll be the YouTube bonus, but for now, let's read the tips and the staff ring. Extra. View tips. The Forbidden Treasure, Onigari no Ryu.
The Forbidden Treasure. It's the most valuable asset of the Furude Shrine that's kept in the ritual storehouse. In ancient times, when this place was a chaotic world full of both humans and demons, this precious sword defeated the demon god. However, nobody has seen it for 1,000 years. According to the legend, it's sealed in the statue dedicated to Oyashiro-sama in the ritual storehouse. Because of its structure, as long as the belief in Oyashiro-sama continues, it will remain a forbidden tool, forever sealed away. Also, it's only mentioned in the forbidden scrolls of the Furude Shrine. Therefore, only a handful of the family heads have ever known about its existence. According to several of these forbidden scrolls, the sword is shaped like a willow branch. There are some ink paintings of the sword, made by a few Furude heads, but none of them match that description. That means they drew those pictures from their imagination. The legend says there was a girl named Oka who received a divine message that commanded her to defeat the demon god. However, neither the swords of humans or the demons could conquer the god. It would require a blade that was neither a human sword or a demon sword. Only a sword that mixes human and demon qualities could defeat the demon god. It's been said repeatedly that the ancestors of Hinamizawa are half demon and half human. Oka Furude, dates unknown, is said to be the first person whose blood was mixed that way. This description is what conveys that. Heaven gave Oka a precious sword. The precious sword was shaped like a willow branch. Its tip split 3 ways, which symbolise heaven, earth, and people in unity. It also symbolised the harmony between heaven, demons, and humans. Oka headed to the swamp where the demon god hid and defeated him with his treasured sword. Each forbidden scroll describes how she defeated the demon god differently. Some say she disciplined him, some say he ran away, some say he surrendered. What happened to the demon god afterwards is unclear too. The other scroll says the precious sword destroyed the demon god's horn, but the other books don't mention that. The precious sword that defeated the demon god was then enshrined and was named Onigari no Ryo. Oka sealed this precious sword in the deepest place of the shrine to hide its existence forever. Even if it was created to slay the demon god, the sword didn't belong in this world anymore and shouldn't exist on the face of this earth. Some said that's why it was removed from the human world. But some said Oka was the daughter of the demon god and that she wanted to banish the sword that killed her mother. The ancient cult of Oyashiro-sama suggested Oyashiro-sama was this demon god, the source of chaos, the source of all that was evil and the source of all friction. To prevent the demon god from returning to the human world through worship and comfort is the root of that ancient cult. It's maybe a type of cult devoted to an evil god. The idea that it's not worship for protection but to stave off a curse links slightly to the modern worship of Oyashiro-sama, but seems distant from the modern worship that asks for Oyashiro-sama's blessings and sees them as the god of marriage and good relationships. It fosters the argument that humans are good by nature, saying that all discord is the work of Oyashiro-sama and there are no demons in the world of man. After that, the legend continues on to what we know today, the harmony of humans and demons. But in this era, all the scrolls on the origin of the belief on Oyashiro-sama and the scrolls on the matriarch of the Furude family have been sealed due to being forbidden. Happened probably because the new image of Oyashiro-sama, that of a loving and affectionate god, and the ancient image of Oyashiro-sama, the source of all evil, didn't match. It became too difficult to explain faith's doctrine. And if one believes the forbidden scrolls, the Furude family was descended from one who killed their own mother. That would mean their blood was cursed to look kind of like him in the office. If all of that is true, then today's faith is very different from the one that was started by the matriarch. One of the leaders of the Furude family from hundreds of years ago wrote this. The Onigari no Ryu, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right, probably not. The legendary precious sword is a symbol of both the Furude family and the sins of the human world. It was an era where people pushed the source of all evil onto others and could only purify their sins by killing one another. The matriarch, number one, took in the root of all evil herself and let a child murder her. That was how this place was freed from the chaos. The matriarch usually means Oka Furude, but sometimes it means her mother. The notion that the matriarch was the demon god was a taboo amongst the Furude family. However, obviously, some leaders interpreted it that way. In the Furude family, or when the world of man commits the foolish act of trying to blame others and tries to return to the world of demons, that is when faith will disappear and the statue's head will shatter. That is when the Onigari no Ryo will reappear to us. The second coming will once again revive the memory of the Furude family's forgotten sins. Is the demon god a fictional legend, or someone who actually existed? In some rare cases, babies were born with horns and they were called children of the demon god. Descendants of the Furude family who will read this, the myths passed down by forbidden scrolls are numerous and their content vastly differs, but don't get caught up in the smoke. No matter how different all of these scrolls are, there's one thing they all want to convey. Search the heart of Oka Furude, the one who sealed the Onigari no Ryo forever. That is the fate that all Furude family leaders must understand. I actually looked this up last week because I was confused by my god, I've lost all of my words.
I was confused by Hanyu and wanted to learn more about her. I'm not sure where like the details on the myth are released, but hello, this is Ryukyushio7. Thank you for playing Matsuribayashi. No, thank you very much for playing Higurashi When They Cry Until the End. Matsuribayashi is In the Way, the solution episode for the situation with Kano and the kids starting from halfway through Minagoroshi. How can they defeat Kano's conspiracy? How can they reach their ideal ending? I wrote this episode as a duel between you, the reader, and me, the writer. So if you think you created a better resolution than my Matsuribayashi, that means you've defeated Ryukyushio7 in this duel. I, Ryukyushio7, have provided 2 resolutions. One is how to fight against Takano. First, here's a hint from the Minagoroshi chapter. You find out about Takano's conspiracy, which relies on Emergency Manual 34. Next, here are hints from the Watanagashi and Miyakoshi chapters. It's been 48 hours after Rika's death, yet the village is peaceful. If you put those 2 things together, obviously the basis of the emergency manual, which Takano wrote, that everyone will develop terminal symptoms within 48 hours, isn't true. When you put these 2 together, you can realise that if Rika's body was discovered 48 hours after her death, then it's possible to prevent the final operation. In the Matsuribayashi chapter, I wrote it about an attacking side and a defending side, like a novel. If I would simply write about the resolution, all I had to write was for Oishi to announce that Rika died at least 48 hours ago, and Takano's conspiracy would fall apart once the news reached Tokyo. This was rather an easy resolution, like a puzzle, so I'm sure many of you got this right. The other resolution was the ideal ending for this world. To answer this, I have to explain the worldview of the story first. There are hints all over, but the crucial ones are in the Tatarigoroshi and Minagoroshi chapters. Satoko's uncle comes home, and Satoko's life becomes miserable. How can she be rescued from that situation? If this story was an exercise in murder, then the Tatarigoroshi chapter was the correct answer. Keiji kills Teppei and hides his body well. There's a happy ending. But I didn't end the episode that way. Instead, I denied it with a bad ending. The resolution the world full of Higurashi When They Cry advocates is a non-violent one, with everyone united together. That is established in question chapters such as Onakakushi, Watanagashi, and Tatarigoroshi. In those worlds, when someone becomes suspicious about everything and worries about it alone, things get worse and that leads to tragedy. The Miyakoshi chapter is a sublimation of that situation. On the other hand, when one talks to their friends, it's revealed that the causes of the tragedies are quite silly. That is indicated in the Tsumi Horoboshi and Minagoroshi episodes. In other words, can you see that in the worlds of Higurashi, anything can be overcome when people talk to each other and help one another? Unfortunately, that doesn't happen in reality. Helping each other creates friction, and oftentimes working alone is a lot simpler. However, we always hope that we can connect with other people and understand each other so that we can face any difficulty. In that sense, this world is a fantasy. That's right. In the worlds of Higurashi, there's one magical rule. That is to talk to others and accept help from them. Then you can defeat anything. With that, it is possible to make a miracle happen. That could be cast into an absolute rule, it'd be a sort of magical, systematic miracle. Just like what Hanyu and her friends said in the story. That is the worldview of Higurashi When They Cry. If you follow that rule and think about an ideal ending, I bet the first thing you'll think about is an ending where all the club members unite and defeat Takano. Actually, there are scenes in the Matsuribayashi chapter that affirm that sort of ending. However, at the same time, Takano is described as a very lonely person. By doing so, I raise a question about the resolution. Everyone else unites, defeats Takano, and makes her into a sacrifice. This is a happy ending for everyone except Takano. This is what I was thinking. Takano is such a good villain, in my opinion, because her actions are awful, but she is redeemable, even if you don't think she has Hinamazawa syndrome, because, you know, she's still, I suppose, a young woman who has been traumatized from a very young age, has undergone, you know, huge amounts of trauma, and, you know, is very clearly has a mental illness, if not straight up syndrome, and she has created a sort of success for herself that is both impossible to achieve and will not give her the satisfaction that, you know, it won't satisfy her sort of her suffering. And so really what Takano needs is therapy, right? Therapy and some medication and quiet, and I feel like what she needs is almost like someone, she needs someone to say, it's okay to be who you are valid, you deserve to be alive, you deserve to make a life for yourself, not under the influence of anyone else, you deserve to choose who you want to be, and you deserve to choose what you want to happen. You don't have to continue on someone else's legacy, you don't have to take part in an unfulfillable quest. You know, and I'm really glad the way it's solved in this chapter. I'm really so glad that Tomitake was able to be there for her at last, because, like, I felt so bad for her. Especially throughout this whole chapter, anytime we get a Takano POV, it's just like, this woman is so traumatized. She doesn't need to be, you know, a gun and to be put in charge of a military operation. She needs fucking therapy. I mean, except Takano. It's a very popular style of story for the protagonists to unite together and sacrifice the antagonists. Aliens come to Earth to invade us, so the world unites and defeats the aliens. Hooray for humans, and we must all get along. This is a very popular storyline all over the world. There are plenty of stories that use aliens, devils, or monsters as clear bad guys and make them into sacrifices. Two parties fighting with each other become allies once the third party shows up. Storylines like that are indeed exciting. By adding a sacrifice, differing parties unite and become allies. To create the situation, there always has to be the third party as well. I'm sure many of those who created such stories must have already noticed that. We always add a third enemy that can't possibly unite with us. To make up with each other, we try and find a common enemy. Am I the only one who feels that describes our world today? In reality, this world belongs only to humans. There are no aliens or devils or monsters. So for us to find an enemy, we'll have to fight each other forever. To make up with each other, we need a new enemy, so we just end up fighting someone else. In this chapter of Higurashi, I declared that to be the demon of the world of man. With these explanations of the world you hear in mind, do you wonder if the resolution of defeating Takano is in fact an ideal resolution of the Matsuribayashi chapter? As I've just explained, I don't. That's right. It's basically the same foolishness found in Tatare Goroshi. According to that logic, the Mina Goroshi chapter isn't the best resolution for the problems that surrounds Toko either. Do you understand that? How can they make up with Takano? You wouldn't suggest to make Tokyo into a new enemy and that the club members join with Takano, would you? If I continue to talk about this issue, I'll probably end up mentioning something religious, so let me stop here. What kind of ending would be the best outcome following the world of Higurashi when they cry? Perhaps it's something better than the Matsuribayashi chapter. You consider this a graduating question for Higurashi when they cry. Maybe I will leave it as my final gift to those who enjoyed this tale for 4.5 years. Thank you for reading this extremely complicated story. In the end, what was this all for? If I were to put the answer to that question in one word, it would be entertainment. It's not important if you were able to answer the riddles. After all, if you enjoyed yourself, you won. I sure shit did. Ryukishio 7 will continue to challenge you. Higurashi When They Cry ends here, but I hope I get to see you again in a different world. What kind of work do I want to create next? Maybe it's fitting to choose my next work from an infinite number of possibilities while listening to the chorus of the Higurashi. I want to express my gratitude to all the people who have supported me. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you all again soon. Ryukishio 7. And folks, with that, finally, the main arc of Higurashi When They Cry comes to an end. It's such a good game. It's such a good game series. Like, even with its comedic elements, I think they're often, even when they're embarrassing, even when I don't want to read them out loud, and I skip past a whole bunch of them, they are still so well placed within the narrative to be, you have such tension, then you have this sudden light mood, and then it's straight back into the tension. It's really well done, but more importantly than that, I just think that this is a really good mystery, and I guess one of the primary questions throughout this entire game series, and this is something I've been thinking about, one of the primary questions has always been, is it really supernatural curse, or is it just humans being awful to each other and taking advantage of the existence of a curse? And in some you think, oh, it has to be supernatural, there's no way it can't not be supernatural, and in others you think, oh, it has to be, has to be just humans, like there's no way it could be anyone but humans. And then in this episode what you really get is that it's both, and it doesn't try to explain that. I'm just glad that we got a happy ending. But this is not the end of Higurashi When They Cry. This is only the end of the main arc. I'm going to be tackling the console arcs next. Unfortunately I can't do all of them. I can only do the ones that have been translated and released by the 7th mod. And I can't remember which one the first of those is, so we'll find out. But I will be streaming on Saturday, speaking of endings, where we will be grabbing more lore and finishing off more side quests in our goal to try and get as much as possible done in Nier Automata. Then on Sunday it will be Destiny 2, where we will be doing new story content if it comes out, but first and most importantly we are going to be doing that exotic activity that I couldn't complete last week. That's the first thing that I'm focusing on, that more than anything else. Then on Tuesday it'll be Final Fantasy XIV, where we're going to be having another Reset Day hangout. We are getting close. We're like, what, less than a month and a half away from 4.5, so I'm really... My plan is to get at least all of my tomestones done, and then I will swap over to Ashard and get him caught up. And next Thursday, we will be continuing the story of Higurashi When They Cry. We will be going back in time a bit and exploring the console arts. So take care, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Do look after yourselves and be excellent to each other. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you guys on Saturday.